that what you said?
No.
I heard that.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Clerk Boudreaux, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Present.
Mayor Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Fellows,
Present.
Councilmember Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember Simmons,
Here.
Councilmember McLean,
Here.
Councilmember King. Councilmember King is absent. Mayor Brown, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I want to move to excuse or no?
Yes, although I know she's coming, but
Yeah.
I'll move to excuse Councilmember King.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll give us a second to get prepared. I think we're ready, but you know. And I will entertain a motion for agenda approval.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember McLean. Any updates or changes? Councilmember Fellows?
Yes, I notified folks on council and also want the members of the public to know that we're going to move the ready presentation, the CBO work session, to July 15th as a 6 p.m. work session on that day. And I believe there's support for that.
The motion, is there support?
Support.
Oh, all right, everybody. Moved by Councilmember Fellows, supported by Councilmember Simmons and Mayor Pro Tem Watson. Any discussion? Is any for this?
Right, we don't even need a vote.
Yep.
They offered and supported it, so they can simply move it.
All right, thank you.
I just had one thing. Is the 6 p.m. time work for folks? Because we have our regular scheduled meeting at 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make it.
All right, all right.
All right, great. All right, so that will be moved a month out. Councilmember Tucson, you have our resolution for closed session.
All right, the resolution number 2025-110, resolved by the council of the city of.
I'm sorry, just a point of order. Did we vote on the agenda?
Oh, in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. My bad. That's right.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So resolution number 2025-110, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the council enter into a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268C for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of the International Association of Firefighters collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing, and also move.
It's been moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we will go downstairs in a closed session briefly. And you'll return hopefully pretty quick.
I think you're good, man.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna call the meeting back to order. Councilmember Tucson, you have a resolution to bring us out of closed session.
Yes, so resolution number 2025-111, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that this council leave the closed session and return to the open session of this meeting, and also move.
Moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember Fellows or I heard a lot of voices. All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows, Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're back in open session.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you all for your patience. We are now at public comment. So members of the audience will have 3 minutes to address council. I will start with those who signed up on the list, and then move to hands in the audience, and then those who are on Zoom. When I call your name, if you are able, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. It's okay. And we will be happy to hear from you. And so first I have Aaron Cooper. Good evening. I'm all right.
Good evening, council, and citizens of Ypsilanti. My name is Aaron Cooper, and I serve as the Executive Director of Avalon Housing. I'm just here tonight to, one, make sure I share the exciting news with yourself, Mayor and Council citizens, that we finally received the financial and legal authority to close, which in short development terms means start the project at 206 North Washington, right down the street. And so probably in late fall, early winter, you'll start to see a lot of activity on the site, demolition of the current building. And we're about a year, 16-month timeline in terms of lease up. So end of 2026 is where you can anticipate actually seeing people move in. So I did bring some information about the property that I can leave here for you all and for the communities, but just wanted to come and let you know that and make sure, we keep you all informed.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Love the information.
Oh, yeah. And you can I'll give it to the clerk and then she'll get it out to us and put some out in the back. Thank you. The next person on the list, Edna Joy Germa. Hello, good evening.
I am speaking on behalf of Power Destiny Ministries. You are voting on whether to agree to pay for the event that we had last Saturday, June 7th at Spec Park, for Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach, which you normally do support and fund our being at the park every year. My nephew was shot and killed on Thanksgiving morning in 2021. That's how these events began. My sister asked me to create a event for his birthday. And so every year we have it the first weekend in June. Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach, in which other organizations come and partner as well, giving information and resources. And I'd like to thank you for coming. A few years ago you came, and I'm hoping you will come next year. Last week I went to the City Hall in Ann Arbor. The mayor signed the proclamation to wear orange June 6th, 8th, wear orange that weekend for bringing gun violence attention to everyone. And I hope next year maybe you'll sign the proclamation as well. So I just wanted to give a little information on the event. This is the flyer. Of knowledge given on social media as well as print for you guys supporting and sponsoring the event. So I thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are the only names I have signed up on the list. So I will take hands from the audience if there's anyone who would like to address council. Is there anyone on Zoom?
There is, there's a Caduce. Is that KJ maybe?
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Caduce. I'm a resident of Ward 3. I wanted to talk to you folks about setting predetermined thresholds and some additional things about public comment. Regarding predetermined thresholds, my first point is about the police budget. I think it would make sense at this point in time to think about the budget conversation for 2026 and come up with some predetermined threshold about what it would take for the police department to continue to receive the allocation of 10 hires for the 26-27 budget. For instance, if they've grown the department by a net of 3 deputies, they can receive that allocation. If it's a net of 2 or fewer, they will get an allocation of 7 hires. So this creates further incentives to hire and ties our decision-making to objective reasoning rather than in-the-moment pressure, which is what I felt was happening last meeting. The second point here is regarding your wages. I think I heard someone say that your wages haven't gone up between 2019 and 2025. If so, I looked at the inflation numbers since 2019, and you would right now we need to pay 25.9% more to just keep up with the inflation than what you do, and that's at least one mortgage payment. So here again, a good principle is to decide now whether your wages should be adjusted for inflation starting next year. And that would allow you to just have it in the budget by default, and you don't even have to talk about this in high pressure moments. I personally find the idea of council eats last to be antithetical to the democratic process because, number one, your vote on this issue makes a difference on the composition of council because the status quo will favor more people who have passive income or more wealth, wider, wealthier, older. It will lead also to fewer contested elections. And then my last point here is about public comment. I was one of the ones who didn't get a chance to speak last session, even though I had my hands raised on Zoom because the time ran out. I tuned in until about 11:15, 11:30, but I had to go to bed. I just think that number one, it's a shame that on a big conversation about the budget, we have to limit public comment. Number two, it's a limit that is more likely to happen to people tuning in on Zoom, and that seems contrary to the principle of equal access. Number three, city manager gave a presentation with all the cuts that the city were willing to make, and Councilmember McLean moved for an amendment that removed all those cuts, and we all had to kind of sit through here watching you all scramble to add back one cut after another. And that took a toll on all of us, so it feels unfair that, I can't make a public comment, but, we all kind of had to be put through a kind of endurance test. So anyway, I propose that we go back to first opportunities for public comment being 60 minutes, and you guys can enforce that more strictly. And
Thank you. Your time is up. Is there anyone else on Zoom?
There is one more person. It's Robert Colley from the RAP, I think.
Good evening.
Hello, my name is Robert Colley. I'm the program manager for the Washtenaw Recovery Advocacy Project. Tonight, you're going to be considering a special event fee waiver for our recovery walk happening this Saturday. First, we just want to thank you for all of the support we've gotten from Ypsilanti and from the city council as well. And we are just hoping that we can be considered for the waiver again this year. The event is completely free for everyone. We have a completely free food truck. There will be bounce houses, a human-sized Hungry Hippo, inflatable, all kinds of good stuff for the kids. So I just wanted to put that out there and thank you guys for all your support.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom?
I don't see anyone else, no.
And any hands in the audience again? Going once, going twice. Okay. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Thank you so much. And then we'll move into our first presentation from AAATA. Hi, Matt. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. It's a pleasure to be back here. My name is Matt Carpenter. I am the Chief Executive Officer of The Ride, proudly providing public transit service here in the city of Ypsilanti since 1974. And I know you're familiar with some of my colleagues. Gretchen Johnson was here a week or so back telling you about a little bit more about the details of the $23 million terminal we're looking forward to building here a few blocks away. Well, I'm here this evening to talk about the concept of safety and security in downtown, something I know you guys are very familiar with. I'm here to let you know that we've approached your administration to start a dialogue about how can the ride be helpful to the city in regards to long-term and short-term opportunities for safety and security. I wanted to come here today to let you know that I had made that reach out and frankly seek your advice. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are as we get these conversations started. So a little bit of background. Since November, there have been a number of incidents at the YTC. I won't go into details. I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. I also want to share with you that I have a very deep sense of personal accountability, and I know many of my colleagues at the Transit Authority do as well. We feel accountable and responsible for the safety of the people who use that platform and that terminal, and our staff who are there as well. You may not know, we have over 2,200 boardings a day at the Ypsilanti Transit Center. So 2,200 of your residents coming and going through that facility. I have about 50 staff, I would guesstimate, cycling through there on a daily basis. These are folks who are trying to go to work, to school, to get groceries, to visit their grandmother. And frankly, we feel accountable for their safety. Taking a trip should not be a fearful experience, in our experience. But we also have been watching since November, frankly, an uptick in incidents that we find concerning. And we do not want to wait until after a tragedy has occurred to take some action, hence our reach out to your administration. However, I want to emphasize that we want to start this conversation with a deep sense of humility. This is your community. That's why we're reaching out to you, and compassion, that in a sense that we don't understand all the dynamics here, and we're here to learn and be helpful if we can. We are very well aware that the Ypsilanti Transit Center started as a bus terminal and has become in some respects something more. A lot of people use it for socializing, congregating, just hanging out. In many respects, it has become a downtown park. That was not its original intent nor its design, but that's how many people have come to see it, and we understand that. I want to emphasize, as we have this conversation this evening, we at the RIDE are concerned with behaviors, not people, not groups of people. We want to welcome everyone. We want to create a situation where everyone feels welcome, but there are behaviors that we are concerned about. A lot of people at the Ypsi Transit Center are there to use the transit. That's why I'd say most of them are there. Some folks are just hanging out, socializing, don't have a concern with that. Some folks maybe come pass through, maybe who are suffering from a mental health episode or experiencing homelessness or maybe substance abuse issues. We're not concerned about them per se. We want to be a help to them. But I need to be upfront with you that there's also criminal activity that happens at the terminal and nearby. And sometimes that criminal activity leads to violence. That is very much our concern. But we feel that all of these people who are our customers and your residents and constituents deserve to be treated with compassion, no matter what the situation may be, but also a certain amount of decisive effectiveness. As I said, I don't want to wait until after a tragedy. Now, we understand you as a community are still working towards consensus about how to grapple with safety and security. We appreciate that, and we want to help you as you work towards finding solutions for a safe and welcoming downtown for everyone. What I have suggested to your city administrator is sort of a two-prong approach. First, I think there's a longer-term question here. The issues involved are not superficial. They will not be resolved quickly or easily. I don't think any of us have that illusion. I certainly know you don't. We are a newcomer to this discussion. You've been having it for a long time. We would like to lend our support, if it is helpful, to the broader discussion in longer terms. I don't believe it's possible, and there'll be some debate, I'll be honest, within our transit authority. Is our responsibility simply ensuring the safety of the platform, or is it broader? I'll be honest, we've had internal discussions about our role here. My point to my staff has been, can you imagine a safe bus terminal without a safe downtown? A safe library without a safe downtown? It's kind of hard for me to get my head around that. I think there's a bigger issue here involved, and we would like to be of assistance if we can. Transit Authority has access to grants that are not available to municipalities. We have a lobbyist in DC. We can start having conversations, perhaps. If they're redundant to what you already do, then we will back away. But if they can supplement what you're already doing, we hope we can be of assistance. That longer term discussion, I suspect, will take some time, may involve standing up more of a coalition. If I can apply pressure anywhere in the county, perhaps that might be helpful. We look forward to having those conversations. In the short term, we sense there's also a need that's a bit more urgent. I am concerned about this summer. After an incident in November, We knew that the cold weather tends to reduce the amount of people at the transit center. So winters tend to be quiet over there. But then this spring, things have sort of popped back up in a way that I don't like. I came over, I parked over there for this meeting, walked over. It's very quiet, as it is most days. It's not a hotbed of anything. It's moments. I want to emphasize that. But I am concerned about this summer. As temperatures rise, sometimes attitudes deteriorate. And that's when we tend to see trouble. So we want to try to work with your colleagues here at the city to get ahead of the issue this summer. So in conclusion, for Madam Mayor, I'd love to hear your questions or feedback. I just want to emphasize that our reach out to your staff is really a beginning. I want to approach this with the utmost humility and compassion. This is your community, you know best. We want to be of assistance, but we do feel a deep accountability for what goes on at that terminal. I'll be honest, I've come to the conclusion that what we've done in the past several years has not been enough. We need to do more, but we want to do that with you. And frankly, to a degree, with what you're comfortable with. So with that, Madam Mayor, I want to let you know you're starting these conversations with your colleagues and happy to receive any advice or thoughts you may have for me this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's always good to see you. And I think the first thing I will say before I open up for questions is that what I do appreciate is you coming to us to have this conversation and lay out the fact that you've reached out to the city manager and our team to start conversation, because in the past, I think things usually swell and then folks are frantically trying to run around figuring out what do we do. I think there are going to be different opinions of, what is happening and why and what we're supposed to do in downtown, period, not just at the transit center. And so I do think it's a nuanced discussion. We've been having it for quite some time, and we're trying to figure out the best ways to manage, everyone's concerns across the board, and that's not always easy. And so I appreciate you coming forward, even though, we may have differing opinions at the table or also within your team or in the community about what we need to do or what's happening there and why. I will pause and open it for questions and then I'll add more. But Councilmember Simmons?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. I'll see you early tomorrow morning.
Yes.
So a couple of things. Yeah, I appreciate this too. I love that you talked about potential grants and thinking about ways that there could be some support around some funding, because we always love that. Just a couple of things I just want to name or suggest. I know some of the different challenges that have happened there. I was kind of going by the transit center, I think 2 different times when there were overdoses in bathrooms, as an example. And so one of the things I think about are who are experts who are doing work in this space. And so currently there's actually Leaf Harm Reduction, which is right down on Pearl in that area. And I know that they've come out and they know a lot of folks in community. But just to name, as there are different resources like them and they're right there as well. Also, but I think there's ways to expand support there, just because I know that, again, that was a challenge that I've witnessed there at least twice. And then also just to name, Care-Based Safety is another resource. One of the things I was excited about that I saw in the new transit center was something that I know some folks in community were advocating for, which was kind of a space that could be used for maybe different meetings, or a space that could be used for maybe some de-escalation and things like that with people. And I know that CBS currently is doing kind of a smaller pilot where some different partners, some different businesses and groups downtown have access to a number to call for responder. And so it's not widely available yet, but I wonder if that might be a good connection to look into for the ride in terms of being able to access those services. They have found when they've done some presentations to council in the past, and they had done a place-based pilot downtown and by Growing Hope, and they found, they kind of shared some of the things they found, which was a lot of reduction, and people did say in the community that is there that they saw a big drop in a lot of behaviors, as you're saying, while they were in the space. And so that would be another resource I would offer. And I also appreciate you saying that people kind of congregating, or as you're saying, right, like use it as a park. I have a lot of, feelings about Washington Street and how Washington Street is basically could be a park overall. But so I appreciate you kind of saying that, because one of the things that I've been hearing from people is actually that there's been a lot of crackdowns actually on people who are like hanging out, or people who are told like you actually can't congregate here, or you can't sit here in groups, or you can't loiter in public, and so that's definitely a concern I have in terms of, how we address these things. But I think that there's ways that there can be better communication too, in terms of what are the problem behaviors that you're trying to control for, and what are things where people are kind of hanging out together in space. So those are just a few quick thoughts.
Thank you. City Manager.
If I could kind of add to that, in our initial meeting, we've met once. We talked about forming a group with a lot of different voices. Myself and Matt both know that the ride and the city are not going to be able to address all of these problems. So we need to have a more robust committee formed. And I definitely would request if council has any suggestions on who to bring to the table. And we want to make sure that there is a representative of youth and different groups that are the DDA, nonprofits operating in the downtown, different voices that we could bring to the table and try to find a more holistic response to this, rather than simply going at it from an enforcement standpoint.
Thank you. Councilmember King, I saw your hand, but I don't know.
Yeah, I did just have one quick question. I know you also mentioned you have made some changes in the past. I was interested to know what those changes was. And because it is heating up and you anticipate different things to happen, do you have any immediate changes you may implement?
So in terms of more recent things that have already occurred, we have doubled the number of security guards there. These are contracted security service. Previously, I think once upon a time, there was just one, and he stayed indoors. Now, I believe that most times there's a team of 4, 2 indoors, 2 walking the platform out in the outdoors. When people have been asked to leave, I believe it's probably those enforcement personnel who are doing that. We've also upgraded many of the security cameras on the existing building. It can't cover the entire platform just because of its length, but we've made those updates as well. I think that's things we've already done. I don't think so. Some of my colleagues are here with me. In terms of what might happen in the future, I know these are sensitive questions, and I want to assure you no decision has been made. I want to work with your team before we do that. As I mentioned, we know we can't really have a video camera presence on the far east side of the platform. That's the opposite side from the building. There's nothing to attach a camera to. We want to look at how could we bring video surveillance to that side of it. I understand that surveillance can be a sensitive topic, so we want to approach that carefully. We have also raised with your city manager a challenge that I think we all have. If we have someone who has done something inappropriate and they're asked to leave, they can just take a few steps away and they're suddenly not on our property anymore. And enforcement becomes more complicated at that point. I don't have a solution to that one because we have lots of sidewalks around. It's an open public space. The potential for more law enforcement presence with your police department has been raised. No decision has been made. I want to emphasize that. We have been appreciative of their presence since last November. I've personally witnessed them de-escalating some things on the platform already here. Again, no final decision there. Other things may come up in the brainstorming, but those are some of the things we've discussed.
Just to add on, I know some organizations have been at the bus stop. What is your opinion on that? I know like Kayla's Kitchen has been down there to pass out food in the past. I don't know if currently they are, but
Sorry if I may backtrack because your question reminded me. Folks like Care-Based Safety and others that Simmons raised, those were also, as Mr. Henling mentioned, brought up further. We've had a long-standing relationship with Ozone House. Very helpful. When the subject is youth, it isn't always kids, but when it is, they've been very helpful. I'm not aware of Kayla's Kitchen, but I would certainly be willing to speak with anyone who might have something to offer in that situation. So I wouldn't discount it.
okay, thank you.
Further questions from council? Councilmember Fellows?
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I support the idea of a committee. When I saw this on the agenda, I wasn't expecting this type of presentation. So I do have feelings about it. You know, I came onto council in November, so you know the new transit center was already very much in process. But as you mentioned, you know, the block has really become more of a utilized space for congregating, for socializing. And I think recognizing that is a good first step into what we can do. And I'm very firmly in the belief that the built environment, the new public infrastructure that we do, needs to be responsive to the way people are already using it. And so, you know, what I would ask of the transit authority is to update your design to create more of a public square. A lot of the design as it is now is utilized for parking, and there's a small area for seating on the corner. But I think if you made the built environment more friendly to the way people are trying to use it, that would also, you know, help encourage different type of behaviors that are more, you know, attentive to like what the space is doing, which is a service to the community. I also think, you know, in the short term, as Councilmember Simmons and King mentioned, there's already service providers in the area. And what I have found with in the past with the Transit Authority is that there has been some resistance to partnering with service providers. And I really think that needs to change in order to make it easier for riders and recipients to access services right there, instead of it being kind of like a fight between, well, you really shouldn't be here, or you shouldn't be distributing food, or, you know, XYZ. So I think if we change like the way we approach the problem, the relationship between the ride and service providers, that will definitely help the situation as well. I think the, you know, mention of being able to put public pressure is a good one. City Council passed in January a request from the county to help fund and resource a permanent shelter in the city of Ypsilanti and surrounding areas, as well as a, you know, unarmed non-police crisis response team. So I think help with putting pressure on the county to, you know, meet us at the table to do that collaboration is going to be tantamount to really addressing the problem long term. So, and lastly, in our most recent meeting, in our budget session, we set aside almost like $500,000 towards mental health and public safety initiatives. So, you know, I think we'll be working in the next 6 months to a year on how to use those funds towards some of these issues. But yes, I think the idea of like a committee sounds great, so we can, you know, dive into this more.
All right, further comments or Councilmember Simmons?
Just right quick, just in terms of something else to think about in terms of design, and how the space is used and how people use the space, or like how the people see the space as part of community. One other thing, I mean, there's lots of different conversations, but one thing that I know that has come forward in lots of spaces that I think could be maybe a good match at the transit center because of location is the idea of like community fridges, because there is a need for access. And then as people kind of see space as generating and responding to needs, they tend to also treat spaces differently too. And so that might be something, because for them to really work well, you need like access to like electricity. And it's also nice to have something that could be covered too.
If I might,
Sure.
on a community refrigerator.
Yeah, so it's a way for people to then have access to food, really at any time. So it's not necessarily tied to like a pantry. And it's really a great way to have a network of access to, you know, what is something that people often need in these spaces. And they work best when there's like really like a few different places, but then people know where they are. And when it works really well in communities where it works really well, there's actually connection too with some different restaurant businesses, as an example, where as opposed to food being tossed, they can, you know,
Sure.
package it up and then it can go in a fridge that then people can have access to without pay. So, I mean, definitely happy to talk more about it. Something that connecting with different folks in different places about, and trying to actually connect with partners. But that's just like, as you're thinking about like, what are ways and like, how can the transit center be a partner? That might be another way. And again, it's like, you know, I think to the point of like design, as Councilmember Fellows is bringing up, it's kind of the way to be in relationship, right? And that when in relationship, you know, it kind of, things can flow a little bit differently, I think, right? And so that's just another idea of something that the transit center is like really well positioned in terms of location and need in that area. And there might be ways to partner with, you know, places like Growing Hope or others in terms of like, you know, keeping it stacked. So.
Councilmember King?
Yeah, I just want to add, after the last meeting, me and Councilmember Tucson, I don't know if anyone else, we did receive an email regarding the design of the transit center. And I just wanted to put on record that they were suggesting maybe even a coffee shop inside of that location.
All right. Any further comments or questions from council? Okay. Yeah, so I think that this is a really great start. I know that the city manager has already been engaged with you. And the creation of a committee makes total sense to me. So we have diverse, you know, voices at the table to talk about this and also provide ideas of, you know, things that maybe none of us would have thought of as potential opportunities for partnership in the transit center. So I look forward to seeing kind of what comes out of that. And then I guess city manager will keep us abreast of next steps. But always a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for your partnership.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. All right, we'll keep moving. Our next presentation is on AI for local governments by Molly Kleinman. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Can I get this also on my computer so I can see you? Okay, great. Everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for having me today. I'm gonna try and keep this relatively brief because I know you've got a lot on your agenda, but just to say that I'm happy to be a resource now and in the future. My understanding is that you are sort of in the early stages of thinking about making some policy around AI for the city. And so I just wanted to sort of share a very brief introduction to AI that we've developed specifically targeted at local governments. And I'm also going to be ready to take questions. What do I press?
The arrow to the right
Not working.
for me. I don't know why it's not working for you.
Maybe we can just have you advance them.
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay. All right. So next
Ready?
slide, please. Great. So just very quickly to give you a sense of where I'm coming from. I'm the managing director of the Science, Technology, and Public Policy Program, which is a research center based at the Ford School of Public Policy at the University of Michigan. We have educational research and community and policy engagement programs. And we bring together expertise from all across campus. So when we talk about science and tech policy, we're talking about all different kinds of things, everything from AI, which sort of feels like my whole life these days, but also space, biotech, climate change. It's all part of the umbrella. And so we think about these things in a really holistic way. The report that you see on the slide here, the Artificial Intelligence Handbook for Local Government, is a project that we did with the Michigan Municipal League last summer and fall. It was written by one of our graduate students who is doing a PhD in computer science and also studying policy with us. And the goal for this handbook was to make AI really accessible for people who are not necessarily technical experts. What's happening right now with AI is that we are in the middle of a real, like, the peak of hype. Everyone is saying all kinds of things about AI, all of these things that we think it might be able to do or that it's definitely going to do. And it's very difficult to tease out what's real and what's not. There are some things that what we're calling AI are going to be really great for, and others that it's not. It's not now, and it's not ever going to be. And cutting through that in order to make determinations about things like procurement for the city and when you're going to use AI and when you're not can be really tough. And so this handbook has a lot of clear-cut use cases and does a lot of sort of guiding you through trying it out yourself as a way to figure out, okay, so does ChatGPT know who the mayor of Ypsilanti is? Can ChatGPT tell me, so the population of Washtenaw County? It gives you these sort of structured ways to experiment with the technology to get a sense of where its strengths and weaknesses are. All right, we can just skip to the next two slides, couple slides down. This is way too many words for a slide. I want to be very clear about that, but it's useful, I think, to start with the federal level policymaking on AI, which is where a lot of these things start. So this is from the National Artificial Intelligence Initiative Act of 2020, and this is their definition of AI. And I'm just going to sort of like break it down. The term artificial intelligence means a machine-based system, it's a computer or lots of computers, that can, for a given set of human-defined objectives, which is important because humans are always involved. These are not things that are doing independently thinking, feeling, believing. Human-defined objectives. They can make predictions, recommendations, or decisions, influencing real or virtual environments. Artificial intelligence systems use machine and human-based inputs to perceive real and virtual environments. That's data. They take lots and lots of data, and they do lots and lots of math on the data to abstract such perceptions into models through analysis in an automated manner. And then they use model inference, so they make predictions. They make recommendations based on all this data and all of this math, what is likely to happen. It can be things like modeling traffic. So how is traffic likely to grow in a given intersection over the next 5 years based on a variety of inputs? It's making predictions based on math. So that's one definition of AI. If we go to the next slide, the blueprint for AI. I like this one. It's a little bit simpler. AI are automated systems that have the potential to meaningfully impact the American public's rights, opportunities, or access to critical resources or services. So we talked before about what AI can do. These are the impacts that AI can have. And we're seeing this already in lots of different systems. So we've got automated tools for things like, we heard a little bit about surveillance, things like predictive policing, things like deciding who should get a loan for housing. A lot of times these systems take the biases that we already had in our society, in banking and policing, and automate them, make them faster, and often launder them through a seemingly objective system. And so that's where these things can go wrong. And that's why we need something like an AI Bill of Rights. And then one more slide on this definition. This was from Alondra Nelson, the former acting director of the White House Office of Science Technology Policy. She came and spoke at the Ford School a couple years ago, and she said, AI is a tool. It's math, statistics, hardware, software. That's really all it is. It's not magic. There's no wizard in there. It's computers, and it's math, and it's statistics. And we know what those things can and can't do, right? Even when they're happening at a faster scale or a more complicated scale. These are things that you as policymakers are capable of grasping. I think often there's this idea that when people are really excited about a technology, people are boosting a technology, they say, oh, well, you need to ask the technical experts. And you all are the experts in Ypsilanti, and you are absolutely have the ability to make policy about AI. So that's one of the things I want you all to come away with today. All right, next slide. This is what AI is not. It is not intelligent. It is not self-aware. This is a picture of R2-D2 and C-3PO, for those who maybe can't see. It's not intelligent or original or self-aware. We are not dealing with anything close to this idea of generalized artificial intelligence. That's not what these systems are. It's not what they can do. All right, so next up, let's talk about the different kinds of AI in use right now in cities. Generative AI is the one we're talking about a lot. Things like ChatGPT and Copilot. These are things where, based on huge training sets of words or images, you can give it a prompt and it will spit out an email to your constituents or an image that you can use on a website. We've got recommender systems. So like Netflix has been around a really long time. Like if you like The Price is Right, you might like Jeopardy. For me, when I open YouTube on a Monday nights are council nights in Ann Arbor, YouTube is like, I bet you want to go to CTN right now and watch the Ann Arbor City Council meeting, even if that's not at all what I'm there for. We're looking for Taylor Swift videos tonight, but it's like, nope, it's Monday. You probably want City Council. And it's often right. Predictive tools. So these are things like lender risk algorithms. How likely is someone to default on a loan? How likely is someone to show up for their trial? We've got pattern matching. So that's things like facial recognition. It has a huge database of images of faces, and you offer it one face, and it will compare it across this huge database and make a determination about whether or not there's a match. And then we've got combinations of these tools. So something like autonomous vehicles, they're doing there's predictive stuff going on because they're determining how likely is the car in front of them about to turn left. They're also doing pattern matching. Is that a bicycle? Is that a goose? There are a lot of geese in the street right now. I don't know if these systems are able to recognize those. So there's lots of different kinds of AI in use right now. And some of these have been around a long time. Things like the recommender systems, and some of them are very new. And we're calling them all AI because AI is basically just a marketing term now. And some of them are really useful and some of them have a lot of problems. So next slide, please. You know what, I'm gonna skip this because we don't have a lot of time and I already basically told you what generative AI is. The other one I wanted to talk about is machine learning. So this is a subset of AI that's using algorithms to identify patterns in data to make predictions. They're widely used in AI software, but it's also been around a lot longer than that. Instead of being explicitly programmed, machine learning algorithms analyze large amounts of training data to learn, and I'm putting that in quotes because these things don't have brains. They're not learning, they're not thinking. Learn trends and make informed predictions. And machine learning is where I think you're going to find a lot of the more useful applications of AI in a city, partly because these things have been around longer and they're more proven, partly because there are applications that well, yeah, I will stop there. So going on to concerns and risks, and you can just go right to the next slide. Which is, yeah, we've got this, it's a big list. AI has implications for civil rights. I talked about the ways that it often brings bias into decisions. Privacy, both in terms of the data that these tools get trained on, and also in terms of what kind of data you feed to the tools. Transparency, when are they being used? We need to, it's often a matter of trust for constituents. If they're looking at an image that's not real, or they're looking at a message that wasn't written by a person, they want to know that. And also, if you're being judged by a system, it's important to know that. Intellectual property, this is especially the case with the generative AI tools. Environmental and resource management, both in terms of local environment and resources, but also on a broader scale. A lot of these tools use a lot of energy. They use a lot of water. And if you have goals for sustainability in your city, that it's worth considering whether certain uses of AI are worth the expense in terms of emissions, for example. Labor, we hear a lot about how AI is going to replace people and replace people's jobs. we are starting to see some companies that are having these massive layoffs because they think that computers can do these jobs better. I think they're going to be hiring people right back. We're already starting to see some of that, but there are real labor concerns. Misinformation. So generative AI tools are really great at producing large quantities of nonsense. I had to think of an appropriate word for city council that can be used in things like misinformation campaigns. Accuracy. So we've talked a little bit about that. A lot of these tools are not always accurate, and it's not always easy to tell if it's lying to you or not. The generative AI tools are often programmed to be very confident in how they give you an answer, and it can be difficult to know if you don't already have expertise in a topic when it's accurate and when it's not. And also accountability. So if these tools cause harm, who can we hold accountable? Who's accountable? Usually, ultimately, in a situation where a city is using AI, it's the city is going to be held accountable. So in Michigan, we have the dubious honor of having the first false arrest due to facial recognition technology in Detroit. That led to a big lawsuit and a big payout because ultimately it was the city that was held liable rather than the software company that had the false ID. So Councilmember Simmons asked me to talk about a couple of topics specific that are like in the news basically right now. So one of them is around regulating AI and the proposed bill I think it's part of the big terrible bill that would ban any state or local regulation of AI for 10 years, a 10-year moratorium on AI regulation. What does that mean for you as a municipality who's considering regulating and making decisions about AI? You still get to make decisions about how and whether to use AI as a city. That's not something, they can't force you to use AI as a part of this moratorium. Where things are going to get messier is if, for example, you're concerned about the biases in tenant screening algorithms. This is one of the very widespread uses of AI. And we know that they're causing problems. The Consumer Finance and Protection Bureau has received a huge number of complaints about these tenant screening algorithms that do have incorrect information or have information that should have been purged that are resulting in people not getting housing. So you as a city might want to say, all right, you're not allowed to use these tools anymore, or you're not allowed to use these tools until after you're ready to make the person an offer, which is how some people are regulating background checks. So like taking the background check approach and bringing it to all kinds of tenant screening. That may or may not be allowed. It's not clear. And I want to make clear, I'm not a lawyer. I'm an academic. You'll have to talk to lawyers. I see you have a city attorney here. You'll make some determinations about that, but they're going to make it more difficult for you to regulate the use of AI in the city, but they cannot change whether or not you make decisions about using AI. So that's what I want to sort of focus on, is how you might make some policy around adopting AI tools as a city, when it's appropriate, when it's not. And that's a lot of what the handbook covers. That I can share a link so that can get shared out. You have it.
Shared it.
Amazing. Awesome. The other sort of like special topic to cover really quickly was data centers, which is not necessarily about AI, but it's close. And I know that there's a data center coming to Ypsi Township that a lot of folks are really concerned about. So I can share a little bit of what we know about data centers. We actually have another policy memo coming out any day now about data centers, and I'm happy to share that with you all when it's published. Some key details. So the state of Michigan recently passed tax incentives for data centers. So as of now, as a state, we are encouraging the construction of data centers in Michigan with tax incentives. However, we know that data centers create problems for host and neighboring municipalities due to increased energy rates, more energy instability, high water usage, issues with air quality, and noise. So there are a lot of problems that can come from having a data center in your town or nearby. I think the motivation for the tax break, the tax incentive, was around job creation, but we know that data centers don't create jobs in the long term. They create short-term construction jobs, and then it actually takes very few people to run a data center. It's a building, it's a warehouse full of computers. And there's not a lot for a person to do in that building. So they don't do the job creation that is promised, and we're going to see that. So what can you do as a city? I think it's going to come down partly to zoning. Zoning is a really valuable tool in dealing with these kinds of issues when it's not in your municipality. So in this case, it's in Nipsey Township, it's outside of the city. There may be opportunities in the negotiations you might have with energy utilities, with water utilities, to make to extract certain commitments. For example, you cannot pass along the infrastructure costs associated with data centers to our residential customers. We should have regulation like that in the state nationally, but we don't. It would be harder to do, I think, as a municipality, but that's probably where your leverage is in terms of dealing with the likely impacts of data centers. Also, in theory, they'd still have to comply with all the same air quality regulations that everybody else does. And so if you end up having problems with air quality, some data centers use generators, gas generators, to make sure that they have consistent energy use, like energy all the time. That's a situation where like still file the same kinds of complaints you would about any other polluter. So the news isn't great, honestly, about data centers, but it's become, I'm seeing people are talking about it and asking about it every other day. And I think there's going to start to be some more awareness and organizing around data centers. This is my hope. I can talk a bit more about the principles for municipal AI assessment, but I think maybe it'd be better to open it up to questions right now and see if you all have questions, and we can take down the slides. And again, I'm happy to continue to be a resource to you all as you sort of approach your decisions about AI.
Well, thank you so much. I know that some of us know a little bit, some of us know a lot of it. We're trying to figure out how this works for us. So thank you for being here, and I will open it up for questions from council. Councilmember McLean.
Thanks for your presentation. A lot to think about here. I wonder if you have other cities, municipalities, especially those that might be our size around that, that have what you would consider to be model policies already in place.
There are starting to be some cities with policies in place. I don't have them off the top of my head, but certainly they're linked in the handbook that was sent out, and I think there are some newer ones as well that I'm happy to pull and share. It's really early days for this kind of work. The Michigan Municipal League just came out with their own policy around AI. So not a model policy for municipalities, but like this is how we as an organization are approaching AI. And I think that's actually a really valuable thing to look at too. And it's nice and short. I guess I will say, if we can skip down to the final slide, if we bring that back up. Because I have a couple of suggestions about making a policy. Basically, it's a really good idea to have a municipality-wide AI policy, both to encourage experimentation and to mitigate risk. So there are going to be some valuable uses of these tools, and you want to encourage city staff to try stuff out and play with it and have pilots, but you want to be prepared for thinking about harm. You want to consider what are lower risk uses versus higher risk uses. And you also want these guidelines to be flexible so they can be updated regularly, because it's such a changing landscape. And so I think that there's, even before you have it all figured out, it's worth coming up with, all right, in what situations do we want to encourage folks to experiment with using an automated translation tool, for example? That's a common use case that I've seen, where a city will use an AI tool to do live translation of their council meetings, so that people in the community who are not fluent in English can still hear and participate in real time. So looking for those kinds of opportunities where there's a real high opportunity and low risk, and being prepared also when something doesn't work to be like, okay, never mind, let's do something else.
One quick follow-up. Do you have thoughts on whether or not, or what the right level of government is to have these policies, whether it should be at the city level, the county level, or regional level, or all of the above?
Any level of government that's making decisions about the acquisition and use of any kind of IT is going to be faced with AI And some of it's just going to be like, now where they're baking AI into Microsoft Word and they're baking AI into Adobe. And so being proactive about helping your staff understand and helping your electeds understand what can these things do, what can't they do, when should we use them, when should we not use them. Even just a policy at that level, I think is valuable across the board. Anytime you're faced with a decision about, like, anyone's making decisions about licenses to buy. The reason that we did this handbook is because the Michigan Municipal League kept hearing from companies that were like, can you help us market our tools to your members? And they were like, no, absolutely not. But maybe we should help our members think about these tools. And that was what brought them to us.
Councilmember Simmons, I think I saw you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of quick questions. And a couple of quick statements. One of the things is, yeah, when I asked about the moratorium, we were like, would it impact data centers or not? And so then I was like going through this bill. And so, but one of the things it does say is that it would be a moratorium on any level of government that would regulate artificial intelligent models, systems, or automated decision systems, and any regulations that would limit or restrict use, impose data handling, documentation, civil liability, taxation, or fee requirements, or that would create barriers to licensing, permitting, zoning, procurement, or reporting procedures.
I didn't know about the zoning piece. That's really interesting.
So that's why I was like, I pulled it out.
Yeah.
It's only because it's in this resolution. That's why I have it.
No, it's great.
Because I was like, I knew I wanted to figure out how it would impact, but basically they're like, you could regulate it if it's a positive regulation, but if it's a limiting regulation, then that wouldn't be allowed under the moratorium.
Right.
And that would include both for different uses for AI, as well as for data centers.
Yep.
So I just wanted to name that. One of the things also that has come forward, as you were talking about, like zoning or like utility use. And so this is an area that I and some others will be reaching out to our state reps about here in this area, both Senator Jeff Irwin and State Rep Jimmy Wilson Jr. both supported this bill at the state level. And some of the language in it is unclear to me when I'm reading it from the things that they are saying. So one of the things, as an example, is that there's a requirement to be a part of the municipal water utility. And as I read it, it looks like it's one option of many for how to achieve a green building, which is kind of funny to me to think of a data center being marketed as a green building. Those are some mismatch of words, but that aside, it seems like it's an option as opposed to actually a requirement. And so I'm trying to get some more information about that. But one of the things that I think it's good for us to think about is that if that is the case, since we share a water utility with Ypsilanti Township, that is something that would then impact this body and come here. And so it's good for us to kind of be thinking about this in those conversations now, because that would be a big thing to happen. And that one of the things that also it says that, again, when I'm looking at the language, and this is why I'm like, I have to ask questions because I only am a literate person. That's it. Okay. But when I'm reading this information, what it also says is that the usage can't, while it's like the costs can't be shared, if there are increases in infrastructure and different things like that, that then could be shared with ratepayers. And that's one of the things that have been used in other spaces to move some of the energy costs, so DTE costs, as well as water utility. And so that's something that we want to look at, as we know for our residents that an increase in a water bill for something like this would not be popular. And so then, okay. And then my question I have, so those are the things I just wanted to bring forward too. I look forward to seeing this report that you all have. One of the questions I have, which is when you were talking about the different kinds of AI or different uses, machine use, things like that. One of the things people have talked about is just like, when you when you do a chat GPT search, it uses this much water. And so I'm just wondering like how accurate is some of that? And also like for each usage, is it about the same or is it different by different kinds of things? Because especially when you're like, let's play with it. I'm like, is this something we really want to play with? And I'm like, I don't want to ask ChatGPT if they know who the mayor is. Because guess what? Google knows
Yeah.
already.
Spoiler alert, ChatGPT does not. So there's a lot of contention about the exact water and energy costs of these kinds of tools. There's one study that says, yes, every search in ChatGPT is like dumping a bottle of water on the ground, that it's using humongous amounts of water and similarly large amounts of energy. I think there's not consensus yet on how much you can quantify that, except to say like, yeah, it's using a ton of water, it's using a ton of energy, it's also using a lot of other like resources because of all of the rare earth minerals that go into all of the computers and things like that. There's just there's a huge resource cost for these computers. And one of the things when people talk about these futures with AI and this advanced general intelligence, often we're talking about building computers at the expense of feeding humanity. Like the amount of resource investment that it would take to build that many computers and that much power means that we're starting to make trade-offs that very few people would choose. But in terms of how you make those decisions as an institution, when is it okay to use? When is it worth the cost or not? I think it's tough. The generative tools are a lot more energy intensive than some of the older machine learning kinds of software. Some of these are software that you can install on your computer and run them on your own device. And so there's a very, very, very wide range of energy use scale, I would say.
Thanks. Spoiler alert, Google uses AI overview now for like everything.
I know that's what you could do is after you put in your search, you just put dash AI and then it won't. So I just have to I'm trying to do that. And then my other question, which is around like security around AI. So both in terms of, and this came up, I know our clerk brought this up in terms of thinking about like elections. But I know people have also brought it up in terms of geopolitical challenges, both in terms of access and like the ways that they might manipulate like software, but then also in terms of where there's the system, the hardware, the data center, that also becomes a target. And whether we are considering those concerns too. So I don't know, like if that's something too to think about, or that's part of the handbook.
Yeah, I mean, so the cybersecurity implications are very large. In the handbook, we don't really talk about the sort of like big system level challenges of like if someone wants to mess with your election, that's sort of beyond the scope. But what we do talk about is what happens when, for example, you're entering constituent information into one of these systems. Where does it go? What kind of protections are there for their data? And that's often very unclear. So I've heard of people entering all of the emails that they get from constituents into ChatGPT to like summarize them and write responses. Yeah, I'm seeing some head shaking. That's I think problematic because yes, they're reaching out to their government. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to have their name and address entered into Google's databases, OpenAI databases. I know someone who enters her own like doctor notes, like when she goes to the doctor and you get access, she puts them in there to get them summarized. And I was like, please stop doing that. Don't do that to yourself. So there are privacy concerns on an individual level that I think are more likely to be the kinds of things municipalities are dealing with. When you've got constituent data, like lots of different kinds of data, you're gonna if you use cameras and sensors, you're gonna start capturing license plates and know where potentially know where people are going, and how can you ensure that those things are deleted, ensure that access to them is limited, those kinds of things.
I think just one thing that you just said, that, you know, it just all takes me back to education. We talk about whenever there's something new, something fancy, something that people are excited about, educating folks on how, the do's and don'ts and what it means, because like that person putting their medical information in, right? Like you could ask it a question, but putting your whole medical record in there probably is not a great thing to do.
Yep.
But that's an educational piece, right? And so, you know, but Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. This has been great. Recently in my professional life, CEO of my company has encouraged everybody to use this for all sorts of things. And I drew the line at customer facing information. So we use ChatGPT to generate documents for our quality management system, but that's drawing on federal regulations and extracting that information and giving it to us. But the idea that we could use this for customer interfaces for technical support and things like that is like, no, that is something, and even just asking it questions outside of that system that pertain to those topics, we've clearly demonstrated that in the science realm, it leaves a lot to be desired, and, you know, completely flip concepts on their head and coming back with completely upside down. So I appreciate that, and I think the implications, you know, for me in that context and here are very much similar in that, you know, when you start using private citizens' information and giving it access to those kinds of systems, you really run a risk of having it being abused. And we had a, you know, few years back, there was a proposal that we put cameras located around the city for the police to, you know, and we resoundingly said no to that, and because of this particular risk. So, yeah, I look forward to coming up with this policy because I don't want it to be abused.
Yeah.
Further comments or questions from council? Councilmember Fellows?
Some more comments, but maybe you can confirm or deny if these are true. But I have the feeling that municipal tools are just woefully inadequate to kind of meet the moment of data centers and AI. And the first indication of that for me, I have emailed the Ypsi Township trustees about concerns over the project that's being planned for South Hydro Park, and their response back was, yeah, we can't really use zoning tools because it's U of M, and so they're tax exempt, and, you know, they can do whatever they want, and we can't really do anything, but we have some tree and noise ordinances, and maybe we can look at that. So I am pretty concerned. You know, basically all indicators and from the state level is that we are trying to incentivize and drive this kind of, it seems like a big Gretchen Whitman project, basically, to bring this sort of thing. And also, you know, these contracts being tied to like classified projects and whatever else. So I don't know if that's your sense too, that we still really don't have good tools to intercede with this at this time.
With this particular data center, because it's a U of M one, I think that that's right. There's very little that any of the municipalities are going to be able to do about it. But that's where dealing, you know, you can't necessarily have any impact on how the university builds this data center or what they do with it, but you potentially can intercede on how the utilities pass those costs on to your resident customers. That's the point at which maybe there's room that I can see. And this is still very much a moving target, because this is happening in real time. Different people in different municipalities are trying different things. A lot of it's not necessarily working yet. A lot of times people don't realize there's going to be a problem, and it's not until the center's in place that problems arise, and then it can be really difficult to address them. So yeah, I wish I had better news on that particular project.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Well, we'll have to get very creative. I just another side comment that, you know, Palantir is kind of being talked about a lot. Peter Thiel, surveillance AI project that is now one of our biggest federal government contractors. And I saw recently, I saw a clip where he said in 2010 that he didn't need his extremist right-wing ideology to be popular broadly because Palantir will just make it so they can win elections anyway. So I think this has been broadly instituted long before we are talking about it now. And so I just wonder if we're bringing, sticks to a gunfight, and wondering if we need to move beyond just municipal and legal strategies and more community-based organizing around it.
Yeah, I think there's a place for both. The community-based organizing is really important, but a lot of the ways that a company like Palantir gets its data about individuals, and that's a lot of what it is through contracts with municipalities. Things like license plate readers, facial recognition systems, predictive policing systems, other camera traffic enforcement, which we can't do in Michigan, but we're still using cameras. So that's the point where Ypsilanti can say no to these things, this is getting away from AI a little bit, except that the issue with these surveillance systems is that without very, very clear guardrails, even if you think, oh, well, this is just license plate readers for traffic enforcement, they're not going to be able to track individuals' movements. Well, if it's getting fed into the same system, Flock is one of the big companies they're aggregating this data and they're using AI to make predictions and determine where people are going. And so any time you're making a choice about a surveillance system, you have to be really careful about where the data goes, who's going to get access to it, can it be kept just locally? And there are products that are allow you to keep the data locally and don't share it, but most of these companies they want your data to help them make more money, the aggregation of data. This is now a whole other thing, but I can talk a lot about surveillance, so I'm going to stop. But yeah, we've done some work on this too, and I can share more reports. Thank you.
Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick, maybe final question, at least final question for me. As we're talking here, I'm getting a sense that it's not about us creating an AI policy, but it's going to be something that we are going to need to be monitoring, and it will evolve as AI itself evolves and as the applications continue to evolve or devolve, however it may come.
That's right. And there are some principles that I think are going to they will be consistent in terms of, the goal is to provide equitable services to all the residents of Ypsilanti. The goal is to be transparent about the use of any system, whether it's surveillance cameras or whether it's an AI tool or for translation or whatever it is. Transparency is really key. We've got actually a pretty clear list of what these kinds of principles should be in the handbook, and starting with principles and then going to procedures is a really good way to have a policy that will be flexible over time, because the principles I don't think will change. The technology as well.
Pardon me. Any final thoughts, questions, comments? Well, thank you so much. That was very thorough and a good start. And looking forward to seeing the report, but thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna just keep moving. Councilmember Tucson, you have our first and only ordinance reading.
Yes, so resolution number 2025-112, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the city has an interest in protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and whereas the city has a master plan that reflects the policy goals of the city, including the guiding value that Ypsilanti is a great place to do business, especially the green and creative. And whereas the applicant, Eastern Michigan University Credit Union, intends to provide public benefits in this development, and whereas the Planning Commission recommends the City Council approve the planned unit development, and now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council adopt the ordinance entitled EMUCU Planned Unit Development and approve the associated planned unit development on first reading. I so move.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Good evening, Josh. We will, just for the benefit of the audience, if you could give us, the overview, and then we'll move to open the public hearing. So give folks an opportunity to hear from you first.
Yeah, so back in on July 12th, 2022, the City Council officially approved a PUD for 611 and 617 West Cross. They approved the EMUCU, the Eastern Michigan University Credit Union. Essentially, back in that 2022 approval, that included 5 departures from the zoning ordinance. Those departures include the frontage build out, the accessory building, footprint maximum size, a minimum number of stories in terms of the height of the building, the building entrance orientation, and then the ATM/ITM amplifying sounds. However, the applicant came, I believe it was late last year, and they submitted a sign application or sign permit application for a freestanding sign. And as part of that 2022 approval, the site plan does show a freestanding sign. However, they never got that official approval of a departure from the zoning ordinance, because in the center zoning district, freestanding signs are not permitted. And so in order to have the freestanding sign, or the monument sign as it's labeled in the staff report, the official departure needs to be granted from the zoning ordinance. Now, section 122-708 establishes guidelines for revisions to an approved PUD. And a departure from the zoning ordinance is considered a major amendment to a PUD. And so ultimately, as part of this review, I noted that there was an additional departure, which is departure 6. And that includes a departure from the zoning ordinance to expand a single-story commercial building. So the single-story commercial building type is not permitted in the center district. The center district is intended to be a walkable, mixed-use type of zoning. And so having a single-story commercial building is not permitted. But they did take an existing single-story commercial building. They did expand the building, the building's non-conforming, so you can't expand a non-conformity, and so they needed the departure to expand the non-conforming building. So I added that as part of a departure, just for cleaner records in our approval. And then departure 7 and 8 are the departures that the applicant requested. Departure 7 is the request for a monument sign, and then departure 8 is the request for having uplighting to illuminate that monument sign. So ultimately, I did end up recommending denial of the amendment, and the reason why is that departures from the zoning, or you have to prove as part of a departure that that it will create a higher quality development or provide some type of public benefit, which in staff's opinion, it does not. However, the Planning Commission ultimately approved departure 7 because it was included on the site plan, and they wanted to minimize the risk of potential litigation, but they did not approve departure 8, which is for the uplighting. So you'll see on page 28, you have the Planning Commission's recommended findings, waivers, and conditions. This is directly from their motion. And you'll see an asterisk just below it that I suggested small tweaks to findings 2 and 3 just to provide more clarity, as I didn't think that departures 2 and 3, as motioned by the Planning Commission, was entirely clear. And so I just wanted to kind of prevent any type of discrepancy or language issues. So yeah, you guys have any questions?
Okay. What I will do is I'm gonna open the public hearing first, and then we'll come back to
Oh,
council.
okay, yes.
All right, so the public hearing is now open. If there's any member of the audience who would like to address council on this matter, please raise your hand. Didn't think so.
Yeah, right.
Anybody on Zoom who wants to ask us about the PUD?
No.
Seeing none, Councilmember Tucson, can you close the public hearing?
Resolved by the Council of the City of Albany that the public hearing to consider an ordinance titled EMCU Planned Unit Development be officially closed, and I so move.
Support.
Been moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Questions for Josh from council? Who wants to start? Councilmember Phillips.
So what we're voting on includes your staff tweaks and also does not include departure 8.
Yes, yes. The motion we provided planning commission's recommended findings, waivers, and motions. It's just 2 and 3 that I suggested tweaks to, which are down below, which city council can decide whether or not they want to tweak that language. I mean, ultimately, city council can also decide to, vote however they feel with whatever conditions, findings, or waivers. These are just recommended by the planning commission, and to clean up the planning commission's language, I provided small minor tweaks to their findings. But that's also below. So what you see as the findings, that is officially what the planning commission motioned.
And that's what we'll be voting on that's before us.
Yes, yes.
I guess my comment is is the applicant here?
Yes.
Because I am interested in adding another condition to the plan of a bench.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if you wanted to.
I don't know if you have feedback on that. Hello.
Deanne Ramos with the University of Michigan Credit Union, Eastern Michigan Credit Union. We did have discussions of adding a bench at one point, I think a while ago when we initially went through the program. And I don't know that that was wanted by the previous council. So we're willing to make considerations of that if that is a request to move forward.
I motion to add a bench condition.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion? I don't.
Did you want to specify where you wanted the bench location to?
I mean, it looks like there's the pedestrian area, if that could be, somewhere that's like visible from the sidewalk.
Okay.
But I there's like the frontage area and then there's parking in the back. So I don't know, there's not the limited areas for where it could be.
Yeah, I mean, there is where the monument sign is, where they kind of have the pedestrian plaza. Are you thinking like that would be a suffice location for the bench?
Like near the pedestrian plaza area that's on the corner. I was expecting a bench when I saw the plans and I was like, oh, no bench. Mhm.
Discussion?
Trying to pull up the, there it is.
Yeah, find the pic, yeah.
I'll tell them.
Probably.
Right in here by the bike.
Yeah, near the bike racks.
Discussion on the amendment. Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. I might suggest be a friendly amendment to the amendment that simply gives the authority to planner to sign off on the final plans for the bench, both location and what the structure looks like. Just
Is that acceptable?
So just that the staff would be, because I think staff's going to be involved in integrating that. So as is, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I will be ensuring that the plans will reflect and address all of the conditions. I mean, with the condition of, adding the bench, You know, I just look from what I see on the site plans, it makes most sense to have the bench kind of where the pedestrian plaza is to begin with. So that was already kind of my thought. I just wanted to clarify that that was what council wanted to see, um, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would be ensuring that the final plans reflect everything that was conditioned. So.
Thanks. Page 69 has that rendering if you're looking for it.
Was that friendly accepted?
I don't know if it's necessary based on what Josh said.
Okay. So we're still on the original amendment on the floor. Are there questions or comments from council? Do you need more time?
No,
Okay.
no, I think this is a perfectly reasonable addition. I was on council when this came before, and I don't remember conversation about the bench, but
Neither.
I'm perfectly happy to have the bench. That's, I think it suits that corner well. That's an interesting space. The other thing that's not shown on this is that there's a power box in front of the sign and a pole there too. So, yeah.
If there's no discussion on the amendment, clerk, could you all please call the roll?
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we're on the amended ordinance. Mayor Pro Tem, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so I'm the liaison to the planning commission, and the discussion around this was interesting because, as Josh said, he brought it up and recommended not approving this, and the discussion that ensued, it organically evolved to where it was majority of commissioners approved this. The one issue with departure 8 was a question of, at the same meeting, we're talking about a dark sky ordinance and trying to figure out how uplighting is going to do that. It says in here, but it's not quite possible to do that. So, and back to the other point is that, it was not expressly or explicitly addressed that the site plan had always had that in there. And nobody addressed it, but the site plan was approved within there. So these folks moved forward with that assumption that it was put there. And so that's just cleaning up a mess that, we've seen other things like that have come through. So, so I'm in favor of the 7 and not up to 7 and not 8. I'm still looking at the tweaks that you've made. I'm having a hard time finishing those together, but that's it for now.
All right, thank you. Further to Councilmember Simmons.
This is just, just like to make sure that I know once we're voting what it is. Again, I think I'm like, because I'm like, oh wait, there's not an 8 here on this list, but so I'm just trying to figure out the things. But when we vote on what is before us, it is to accept what the planning commission put forward with the suggestions from you, or do we have to add those separately, those updates that you're adding?
You would have to add those updates. Ultimately, it's just a suggestion. Again, council could also decide not to go with planning commission's suggestion as well.
Okay, so, and that's just under these things that are under the staff recommends tweaking findings 2 and 3 to say the following. And then, all right, well then I would motion to accept staff's recommendations of the tweaking of language.
It's been moved by Councilmember Simmons, supported by Councilmember King. Discussion, if any. All right, see none. Mayor Pro Tem.
So to be sure, so there's lots of numbering here, right? So the findings are what we're replacing. So the findings from the planning commission's recommended findings are being replaced with 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
So 2 and 3 are being replaced and 4 is being added.
Yeah, 2 and 3 are being replaced, and 3 and 4 are supplementing what was already there for 2 and 3.
Because 3 in the findings looks a lot like 4 in your proposal.
Yes. Includes a request for
1 is unchanged.
Yeah, it looks like 4 remains.
We've just inserted 1. That's
Yeah, you just inserted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clerk, would you please call the roll on the amendment?
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
The amendment carries.
You, all right, we're back to the amended ordinance. Any further comments or questions for Josh or discussion on council? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right. Councilmember Fellows, you have our first resolution. Bless you.
Resolution number 2025-114, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the minutes of June 3rd, 2025 regular city council meeting be approved, and I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Fellows, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Anything on the minutes? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Councilmember McLean, you have 115.
Page is that on?
Don't use that thing.
I know.
25-115, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city of Ypsilanti adopted a special events policy, and pursuant to the policy, the city may co-sponsor an event if it is of general interest to the public and advances the city's public image. And whereas this year, the 4th annual Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach event took place Saturday, June 7th at Prospect Park. And whereas Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach's event organizer is requesting that the city waive the park rental fees for the 2025 event. And whereas city council agrees that waiving the park rental fees for Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach's event would be in the general interest of the public and advance the city's public image. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approves the request to waive the park rental fees of $1,435 for the 2025 4th annual Stop the Gun Violence Community Outreach event. I so move.
Or
Moved by Councilmember McLean, supported by Councilmember Tucson. I know Wendy's not here, so city manager.
Yeah, this is for the annual Stop the Gun Violence community event. The applicant is in the audience if council has further questions.
Thank you so much. Questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem?
The ever-present question. Where's our budget for this?
So there's that $20,000 that was still left in, but that's next fiscal year. So it would just be, we would waive the fees and.
Yeah, because that doesn't come into effect until July 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but we had money this year, right?
We did not.
No, we just did
Did
that
not.
for next year.
All right.
Well, I think the last time we've talked about 45,000.
About 40 plus thousand.
Yeah, last year was 44,000, give or take, and we're roughly around there.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yeah, I think one of my things around this, obviously, so we're kind of coming to the end, and I think the hope is that we'll approach this maybe a little bit differently in the next fiscal year. So, but I know during I don't know, a meeting or two ago, we were talking about the forms and some of the language on the forms, and I don't really know what what the process is for making adjustments, but I know for sure when thinking about things like the waivers that I could see some changes to the form that will be helpful for us to be able to determine some things. Like, for instance, getting a sense of different collaborations the groups are doing, because some of the activities are similar. We're looking at some of the same partners coming in different spaces. And so I'm actually interested in what some of those collaborative efforts look like. So that we are kind of making sure that if we're waiving, that we're getting the biggest um, power in that space. Also, I'm interested in knowing about like outreach efforts. Like, how is the information being shared to the public, to the community, to enhance participation and attendance and all of those things in order to understand how is it a benefit to the overall community. I live right by Prospect Park and I didn't actually know the event was happening. And so sometimes I wander into the park because I hear something and I'm like, what's that? But I think that would be important to think about as we're trying to determine waivers on a specific budget. And then the other thing would be around specific connections to IPSI and why it's a benefit to the community. I think that would be good to have more clarity on for this, because I think that all of the different activities, all the different issues are great. Like, yes, stop the gun violence. I'm there. Yes, like recovery. Yes, there's nothing that like on issue that it would be like, no, that doesn't make sense. But I do think that we're going to have to be more discerning about that. So I like to kind of get ahead of it before we see things, and then also to figure out as we go. Here we are again, we're at the very end of our fiscal year, and I want to think about how we then approach so that it's not that activities that happen in the early summer, all of a sudden we've already expended our funds. So anyway, so I don't know if that's a conversation we have, if you all could put something forward and then we could look at it. But I think that would be really helpful. I think personally, my feeling on the things that we have today is because of our current process, I would support them, but I think that moving forward, I think it would feel a little different.
I think you're actually speaking to something that I was going to bring up around process now that we've allocated those funds for next year, because I don't recall us talking about like, do we have a deadline in place? Have we created the actual process? Does this need to be a work session of council, or can you all come up with policy, bring it to us for us to then wordsmith, look at, and
So
bring?
we have a draft fee waiver policy in the works, and now that we have our new employee, Bonnie can speak more in depth about this, but they're pretty much doing an overhaul of our special events policy.
And so I was going to add on to that, then that would include sponsorships, fee waivers, all of those things in that policy.
Yep. So we'll be looking at sponsorships as they're described in the ordinance and what exactly it means to be a sponsor of an event. We're going to be taking a look at the calendar of events and making sure that we're not including too many or too few events, and what the past and what's been going on in the past and how that's affected other events. We wouldn't want to sponsor two major events on the same date, for instance, right? We just don't have the staff to do that. So we'll be looking at capacity, we'll be looking at return on investment, both literal and the figurative community return, right? Because these are community events and they have value to the community. That's not just monetary. But of course, we do want to avoid losing money, just straight up spending the money of all of the taxpayers of the city of Ypsilanti on a handful of events. So we are going to be looking at it from the ground up. We have the form in front of you tonight is the form that has been used for the past however long. We don't want to necessarily start just changing things willy-nilly. We want to have a game plan as we change things so that we can change something, see if it has a positive effect, a negative effect, and just be able to pull the levers that we want to pull in order to get council and the Parks and Arts Commission and the people of Ypsilanti the results that they want to see. So I have heard, and I've been actually literally taking notes as you've been talking. I am happy to hear from each of you individually, or we've been putting it off a little bit on the Parks and Arts Commission side of things. We're planning to have a big discussion there as well. We've been waiting to get Jennifer onboarded and actually have her feet underneath her before we throw her into the fiery pits of special events fee waivers. But the time is nigh. So what I'm hearing is that you want to hear the history of the waivers and the amounts given per event. You want to see where we're at with the budget, the city's side of the budget. I've heard off and on that people are interested in the budget of the actual event being put on or the organization putting on the event. I've heard that you want to hear about how the event is being publicized, how are people being made aware of the event and its connection to the community. Basically, you're trying to see that the event is getting the highest return on the investment, bang for the buck, however you want to phrase that. But we're looking to make sure that the events have value for the community, equivalent to what we're putting into them.
And then also,
I was just gonna add that I think other ideas from council may come, and I would ask that council send those to Bonnie so they can go to the Parks and Arts Commission as well in the discussion that they're having.
Yeah, no, thanks. I was just gonna say, the other thing was around collaborations, like efforts of collaborating with other similar activities. And then the other thing which came up previously, which was around changing the language around security in terms of like how they like thinking about ways to resolve conflicts or things of that sort.
Is there further discussion on this? Because we're actually not talking about the the application on the table. We're talking about process right now. So I want to bring it back to the actual fee waiver request, and the applicant is in the audience. So if there are questions about this fee waiver request on the table. Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one comment. I'm going to support this request. But I believe 500, so the total amount requested to be waived is $1,435. I believe of that 500 was a refundable deposit anyway. So in effect, what we're really asking for is an amount that's less than $1,000. Not that that's insignificant, but just to put it in perspective, about 1/3 of that requested amount would have been a deposit that would have come back.
And so, I'm sorry, just to clarify, are you saying that we need to amend the amount?
No,
Not
not-
here.
not-
It's just lifting that they were gonna get $500 back anyway. If they paid the deposit, it's refundable. You get it back at the end of the event.
Please actually that from the amount that is being spoken of. Yep, so
Would like that amended.
we would like to
Yeah, because I think that
have
was
yeah, because that's just how security deposits function.
So I entertain an amendment.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councilmember McLean, supported by Councilmember Tucson to remove that 500 amount. So it's what, $992.40?
And did it also, and I'm trying to do this math. I think maybe it did come out. I know we've talked about this in the past in terms of credit card fee, that it was already taken out.
So no, it would be $935 if that's the case, because that comes after. So the amendment would actually need to be $35. Right. We're just making sure that the number is correct. Yep. No, you're okay.
Okay, yeah, maybe it says the subtotal before the
Right.
credit card is the 1435. So I think it didn't include it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any discussion on the amendment?
We're clear, this is for 935.
$935. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we're back to the amended resolution here for the request for fee waiver. Is there further discussion, or can we vote? Please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem, you have 116.
I do indeed. Resolution number 2025-116, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti adopted a special events policy, and pursuant to that policy, the city may co-sponsor an event if it is of general interest to the public and advances the city's public image. And whereas this year, Home of New Vision's Recovery Walk will take place Saturday, June 21st at Riverside Park. And whereas Home of New Vision's Recovery Walk event organizers are requesting that the city waive the park rental fees for the 2025 event. And whereas City Council agrees that waiving the park rental fees for Home of New Vision's Recovery Walk would be in the general interest of the public and advance the city's public image. Now therefore be it resolved, the Ypsilanti City Council approves the request from Home of New Vision to waive the park rental fees in the amount of $1,785 for the 2025 Recovery Walk, and I so move.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember King. Thank you for doing that, because I was about to give that number. This,
And council, I would like to point out that this amount has already had the deposit removed.
wait,
So the total is $3,936.40. It's already had the $2,000 security deposit refund removed, as well as the credit card fee.
so the total is $3,936.40.
With, if you include the refundable security deposit and the credit card fee.
Right, and
So-
Mayor Pro Tem removed that number when he moved it. He gave the 1785 amount.
No, I know, that's how it was written in the resolution, I believe. I'm just
got it. I'm
pointing
looking at
that
the
out,
page.
so
Okay.
as to not remove the security deposit.
Got it. All right. So we're talking about the correct number. Discussion from council, questions? I think I make the same statement that because we didn't have a process, I'm gonna support this. But looking forward to a process coming forward.
And the only
Councilman
thing I was
King?
gonna say on the last one, for me, I guess I was surprised to see either one of these. I thought we stated at a prior meeting that we were kind of done with this for this year, but maybe I misheard. But again, just
Whenever we have something come through to Wendy, it automatically comes to the agenda,
Yeah.
does it not?
Per the ordinance, if they request a fee waiver, it goes to city council.
Yep.
So it'd be up to city council to either deny it or approve.
okay, great, thanks.
Further discussion or questions from council? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
And I think I would just say, just based on even some conversation that we've already had as a body, that we're looking forward to this process, because I do think in the past few years, things have gotten astronomical. And we're trying to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with what we're doing, so that we're not, again, losing money in the process for public good.
And if I could add that $20,000 is still in the budget for fee waivers, so you would waive up to $20,000.
Up to 20, yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
I believe it's 15,000 now.
It decreased.
Yeah,
Yep,
it
yep,
decreased
you're right.
5,000.
It's 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And then my other question is, and this goes to when you were bringing up the process for sponsorships and things like that, is that coming from the same bucket of money, or would that be separate?
That's a separate line item.
You just named it fee waivers. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, how much is that one? Sponsorships.
I think it's either $2,500 or $5,000. I'm pretty sure it's 2,500.
Oh, so it's that. So it's much smaller.
Right.
And usually people are asking us to sponsor at 2,500 or something, aren't they?
Well, we'll go
We'll
process
see.
coming and we will
Okay,
discuss
all
that.
right.
And if we have to amend something, then that's an opportunity that we have. But in this moment, we're just gonna keep.
Okay.
Okay.
I will verify that amount too, but I'm pretty sure it's 2,500.
Councilmember Simmons, you have 117.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas per section 4 5.03C of the City of Ypsilanti Charter, the city manager has the responsibility to hire the assessor. And whereas the city has been engaged in a professional services contract with WCA Assessing since July 2011, and the contract expires on June 30th, 2025. And whereas the city is pleased with the services of WCA Assessing and would like to renew the agreement with a 5% increase for each year of the contract. And whereas the city continues to find ways for WCA to enhance its services to the city and employees in the execution of its duties, now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approves a 3-year contract with WCA Assessing for $115,145, $120,902, and $126,947 respectively, with optional reappraisal fees to be approved by City Council, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign and execute the agreement. And I so move.
By Councilmember Simmons, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. City Ma-
Council, this is, WCA has been providing our assessing services for a number of years now. The city used to employ an assessor to help to assist in balancing the budget. We went out to contract to decrease potential legacy fees and things like that. So this is a contract renewal. It's a 3-year contract. Doug from WCA is here to answer any questions, but this is a fairly standard contract that has increased with each contract based off of market rates for this service.
Thank you. Questions or comments from council? Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. When did we last bid this contract?
It's been a while since we last bid it out, but there aren't that many companies operating in the state that provide that service.
Further questions or comments, Councilmember Fellows?
What was the last contract amount?
Oh, yeah, you.
Well, you got it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The last contract was 109,387. So I think additional 5% goes to the 115, 145 that we have there for 2026.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm just curious about the 5%, because inflation isn't 5%. So why is there, and we've seen this a lot of contracts, it's not specific to this, but we get these contracts that come in and we got one for 9%, we got one for 5%. And I know what my pay increases every year, and it's not 5%. So I'm just curious.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Doug Shaw from WCA Assessing. I have Courtney Borden, who's your certifying assessor here as well. The assessing field is a rather unique field. There's been a shortage of assessors ever since the early 2000s. What that has done is exacerbated the pay scales for assessors throughout the state. It's created a shortage in the state as well. There aren't enough certified assessors. So if you know anybody looking to get into a field, a profession that is, in need of assessors, this is it. But our costs are similar to same type of costs a city might have. We have our employee costs. We have to pay a competitive wage because we need to retain our talent that we have at our company, meaning Courtney. We also have to attract talent as well. We are in competition with other service providers, but also other jurisdictions as well. But we also have insurance costs. Healthcare and liability insurance are on top of our employee costs, and they've increased exponentially over the last few years.
Thank you.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, all of this shows that we need a bubble in the insurance industry because that has been driving lots of costs up for home mortgages, everything. My mortgage goes up only really because of insurance. But the question I have, so city manager, when you were saying that we used to have this in-house, do you see that these amounts match what the savings we had hoped would be materializing?
So it's been over a decade at least since we've had a contracted position. So I did a little bit of digging on salaries, and it's and plus benefits, and it's around that amount that would be at cost to the city. Plus we would have the legacy costs of paying out their retirement healthcare. So over the span of employee from hire to retirement, it would be a greater cost.
Mhm. Well, yeah, we might kind of tip over a little bit, but it sounds like there might be still some benefits. But what would it look like for us once we pass a certain threshold? Is that something that then we would reconsider what it would look like to have our own assessor? I mean, then we might run into the challenge that you were sharing in terms of the shortage, and having issues staffing that position. But
Yeah, if we got to a certain threshold that it no longer makes fiscal sense to contract out, we would start a search for an assessor.
Thank you.
If I may interject, we represent 48 communities in the state of Michigan, largely in southeastern Michigan. And I can tell you, communities big or small, we always provide a savings. I mean, communities the size of Canton Township, City of Westland, Taylor, we even do Battle Creek, Kalamazoo. Even with full-time multi-person staff, we provide a considerable savings for each jurisdiction.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from council on this contract? Councilmember Fellows?
Yeah, I'm just because it came up last meeting too with the Stevens garbage service, and I think it was a 5-6% increase for that contract too. I understand it might be like market rate, typical, but I am concerned with that those seeing these increases over time, 109,000 to 126 in 4 years. So I am interested in exploring moving some of these like farmed services to in-house for future contracts. And especially in the context of, not being able to pay the electeds any increase either. Not even 2% over 10 years. I think, paying out privatized services 5 to 9% over each year doesn't feel great.
Thank you. Further comments or questions from council? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
No.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
You too. Councilmember King, you have 118.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the Finance Department of the City of Ypsilanti serves as an independent contractor of the Ypsilanti Fire and Police Pension Board, who performs administrative services on behalf of the board. And whereas the services shall be performed at 1 South Huron, Ypsilanti, Michigan, or as otherwise determined by mutual agreement of the parties. Whereas the contract is effective for a term commencing on July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And whereas the board agrees to pay the city $38,390.97 for services performed here under and a one-time payment of $4,620.57 to cover recent financial software upgrade and implementation. Now therefore it be resolved that the City of Ypsilanti City Council approve the contract for the fire and pension administrative contract fiscal year 2025 through 26. I so move.
Support.
Been moved by Councilmember King, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Council, this is a contract that we have with the pension board to provide administrative services and accounting. Reagan's here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for our finance director? Some money in. I like that. All right, seeing none, please call the roll. Oh, wait, oh, listen, y'all, better, come on. You got a question?
So do you increase your costs 5% every year for this?
3% plus
How much?
3%
Yes.
plus the implementation for our new software because they also use that.
Is it like a percentage that you charge for the implementation?
It's an allocation based on how much usage for the board.
Did you have something, Councilmember Simmons, a question?
Well, honestly, I'm just trying, I'm trying to be like, wait, what is this? Because this is what the board pays. So
us.
this isn't what we had talked about earlier. That's coming up later.
No, that's not it.
Okay,
Nope, that's not it. This is different.
this is different.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay,
Mhm.
no questions.
All right. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
Yes.
Member Tucson.
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much, Councilmember
Thank you.
Tucson. You have 119.
Yes, I do. So resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti has an interest in excavating soil to remove contamination of PCB from the Water Street redevelopment area, and whereas the city received 8 qualified and responsive bids, and whereas the city has met with AKT Peerless to review those bids, and AKT Peerless, has completed its review and analysis of the bids, and whereas staff and AKT Peerless recommend that the city council approve awarding the contract to 21st Century Salvage for the excavation work at the Water Street redevelopment area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that City Council of the City of Ypsilanti approve 21st Century Salvage as the contractor for the excavation of PCBs at the Water Street redevelopment area. And I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember King.
Um,
Hello, Katie.
yeah.
No. City
No,
Manager.
no. So this is the result of the RFP that we released for soil removal at Water Street.
Who's this?
And Bonnie is passing around some additional documentation. And then, of course, Katie's here and Scott.
I will definitely let Scott answer your more detailed questions.
Yeah.
However, there's a couple things that are important to note. We ended up applying a uniform 1.5 ton per cubic yard conversion factor for items 1 through 3, which are listed in that document. And I apologize, I intended for that to be in the packet, so I apologize for getting this to you late. Which indicates that at 21st Century Salvage was the lowest bid at $585,000 and $585,500. And then the second thing was that with the 1.25 million that we have left in the MEDC contract right now, if we also went with 21st Century, then that would leave us the most wiggle room at the end to possibly have savings to be able to move into the other section that isn't scheduled for this summer. And then AKT also did interviews with 21st Century where they demonstrated a history of similar projects. They were also able to present their hazardous waste operations and emergency response, HazPower training certificates for the personnel would be on the site. And finally, our preference clause for a city contractor, 21st Century is the only one that was in Washtenaw County, and it's in Ypsi Township. So based on those sort of 4 criteria, which is a very high level summary of it, is why we're recommending 21st Century Salvage. But again, if you have more detailed questions, Scott is here to help answer them as well.
Thank you so much. Anything, Scott, before we ask you questions?
Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. Questions? Councilmember Simmons.
This is just for clarity, because sometimes math doesn't math for me. So I'm just trying to understand. So I have 2 questions. One is, when you're saying that there was some adjustment, which makes 21st Century the lowest bid, because I'm just looking at this total bid price here, and they're kind of in the middle, so.
Yeah, so there's 2 documents. Sorry. There are 2 documents in there. So the first document was in the bid tab that was included in the packet, and the second one I just gave to you guys, and that has attachment or appendix B on it. And so that's the one where we use the same modifier for all of the bids to the 1.5.
Oh, I see. Because you're saying, okay, yeah, so some of them might have, they use different amounts.
And so then we picked what was kind of in the middle of all of those
I
as the
see.
one to evaluate all of them on.
Okay, so then I'm seeing, so then the 21st century one, that's why that one stayed the same because they were using the same uh multiplier, and these other ones changed because they were using larger ones.
If I could clarify, so bid items 1, 2, and 3 deal with excavating and transporting hazardous waste. Bid item 2 is excavation, transportation, and disposal of non-hazardous waste.
Mhm.
And bid item 3 was limited backfill and compaction. So we're taking soil off the site, we're bringing some amount of backfill on site. The bidders or the contractor who is selected is going to be paid per ton for the soil that's taken off, and they're going to be paid per ton for the backfill brought on. So they were asked to provide unit pricing for those activities, a cost per ton. We know with pretty high confidence what the volume of soil is that's going to be taken off site. We know with pretty high confidence what the volume of backfill needed to come back on site is. What we don't know is the density of the soil or what it weighs. So we ask people to use their professional judgment to come up with a conversion factor from cubic yards to tons. The reason we did that is we just wanted everyone to think critically about what it's going to take to handle these defined volumes of material while also considering what it's going to cost to either pay the landfill to dispose of it or pay the gravel pit to purchase the backfill. So everybody came up with unique soil density or backfill density conversion factors. So that's partly why there's variability in the bid prices, is because there's variability in the density conversion factors that the bidders use. But in order to compare apples to apples for bid items 1, 2, and 3, which on average represent 80% of the cost of each of the 8 bids, we had to apply a universal conversion factor to those unit pricing that were provided by the bidders. So in doing that, we did use 1.5 tons per cubic yard as the universal conversion factor. It was also the most frequently used conversion factor among the 8 bidders. When you do that, 21st Century Salvage did have the most advantageous pricing for their bid as a whole. Bid items 4, 5, and 6 were all lump sum, so those all stay the same. We didn't change any or adjust any pricing that was provided by the bidders. We just applied a standard conversion factor to convert the volume to tons. While it's not on the spreadsheet, we also ran the same simulation, assuming the soil was light, relatively light. 21st Century Salvage also had the most advantageous price. We also used the highest soil density factor that was provided by one of the bidders, ran the simulation again. 21st Century Salvage again had the most advantageous pricing. So the weight of the soil is really the unknown. If the soil is light by chance, great, the costs are lower. If the soil is relatively heavy, that's too bad, the costs are higher. But either way, 21st Century Salvage has the most flexibility in their pricing structure to do this job most efficiently. And like Katie said, to have budgetary buffer to either deal with unforeseen circumstances during the dig and haul, or hopefully be able to execute a second follow-on cleanup operation in the fall.
And so if that this is kind of like a way to kind of get a sense of where it falls, but determine, like, based on the weight, the actual weight that it is, might actually shift the cost a bit.
Yes.
And okay, so that's helpful. Thank you. And then the other question I just had, which is, I saw in the materials that you all interviewed 21st Century. Did you was that like something you did with all of them, or was it just an interview with them because they had risen to the top?
We interviewed them only because they did have the most advantageous pricing. There were a couple of bids that because of the pricing structure, they just were not advantageous one way or another. The reference checks, we sent out a list of questions for references for 6 out of the 8 bidders. So we checked references for 21st century language. They had favorable responses. And then the interview was conducted really to get a sense of their qualifications to do the work. So we talked about the crew they anticipate having on site. They all have 40-hour HAZWOPER training certificates. We asked about subcontracting services. They intend to subcontract the transportation of the hazardous waste through US Ecology, which is a qualified hazardous waste hauler. They intend to subcontract the non-hazardous waste transportation through a separate experienced and also qualified hazardous waste hauler. And I believe they intend to subcontract the site restoration piece, which is just reestablishing vegetative ground cover when said and done.
And then have you worked with these different companies in the past?
Out of the 8, most of them, yes.
And in the materials, it said that 21st century. So with the reference checks, it had 2 of 3 favorable. Did that mean that the third didn't respond?
The third did not respond.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Further questions from council? Councilmember Fellows.
I emailed pretty late a question about the contract itself. Is that something that's in your hands?
That,
Sorry.
so a good portion of the contract language was in the ITV that we released. We will be finalizing some language with Randy following this meeting.
Okay. I think because I can't see the contract language, I do want to add a condition. Condition to the contract to stop work if burial sites and or human remains are discovered in compliance with archaeological standards set by Michigan Attorney General Opinion number 6585, cemeteries and dead bodies.
So it's also my understanding that that's the law, and that if they find any remains, everything stops until that happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing. Yes, if human remains are encountered during the excavation activities, it's a hard stop. The starting point is local law enforcement. So once they're involved and they assess the situation, there may be other agencies that become involved after that. But yes, that's the protocol.
I believe it's right now, the standards are not fully the ones that I know about is this Attorney General opinion. So is there, the standard that I know about is an Attorney General opinion only. Do you know of a Michigan state law that you're referencing?
I do apologize. I don't want to ask you to remove your mask. I read it.
Is there a
If you
law?
could repeat, what's that?
Is there a law that causes that to stop?
I do not know the answer to that question. If there is a law, but the protocol is local law enforcement first.
And if we need to add it in, I would say I support, but I heard in the past that is something that I thought was the law that we had to stop. But I don't know what the decision is made, but if it needs to be supported here tonight.
I can't cite.
Yeah.
You support it, though. I just want to add as a condition, since we don't have the contract in front of us tonight, just that it's in the contract.
Does our lawyer have a sense of this information?
As I said, no. I am generally aware of such protocols, though, that Scott described. I mean, I can look, but it doesn't strike me as inappropriate if something like you suggested be added.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an impediment. If the AG says that's what needs to be done, then that has the general force of law absent the existence of a statute or court opinion to the contrary.
If I could comment on the motion, could you, instead of reading all that into the record, could it just be the AG opinion number and abide by that?
Yeah, so it sounds like you seconded my motion, so I'm gonna amend it to motion to add a condition to the contract according to archaeological standards set by Michigan Attorney General Opinion Number 6585, cemeteries and dead bodies.
Yes.
All right. 6585. Further discussion on the amendment? Or you good?
No, no, I took his, he said what I was saying. that
Yeah.
It's standard, but it isn't explicitly stated, then there's.
Just crossing our Ts.
Call the roll, please.
On the amendment,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean, Councilmember King.
Yes.
The amendment carries.
Thank you. We're back to now the amended resolution. Anything further from council? All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
The amended motion carries.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to extend.
Move to extend to 10:30.
All right, it's been moved and supported.
I think we got it.
10:30 is enough time. We got it.
I-
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's get moving. Councilmember Fellows, you have 120.
Resolution to extend the Washtenaw County Dispatch contract to June 30th, 2026. It is resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the dispatch contract with Washtenaw County be extended to June 30th, 2026 on the same terms and conditions. Be it further resolved that the mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign the extension agreement subject to the approval of the city attorney, and I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Fellows, supported by Councilmember King. Am I correct? Sorry.
I thought I heard someone
I
else.
supported it.
Oh, I did not hear. Councilmember Tucson, sorry.
You're deaf too.
Something's not, your voice is off tonight. It's a little low.
Who's it?
So, yeah. All right, city manager.
Council, in November of 2021, City Council approved a contract with the Sheriff's Office to provide dispatch services. Starting in 2022, it was 81,957. 2023, it rose to 89,333. 24, 97,373. Now we're on 2025, which is $106,137. So this is in line with the increase that council has previously approved. And there is no other changes to services provided.
Great. Thank you. Oh, Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Had several questions, I think, for the city manager. So along the lines of those historical numbers that you just shared, how is it as we sign contract after contract with the county, where do the increased costs, what's the basis for those?
That would have been negotiated at the time in 2021. I know prior to that, there wasn't an increase in some time. I'd have to check records, but I don't have that information offhand or on hand rather. That's just based off the contract that was approved in 2021.
Councilmember McLean.
Mayor, so, and this 9% was also negotiated or was it dictated?
That again, it would have been between the police chief then, city manager then, and the sheriff's office. So I can't speak necessarily to the reasoning behind the 9%. I know this contract will go until the end of 2026. And at that time, a lower percentage of increase can be negotiated.
Lower percentage of increase can be negotiated. Have we done any calculations? Let's see, Reagan, he left. When was the last time we evaluated this and looked to see whether it remains cost effective for us?
So I spoke with the chief earlier today about bringing it internal. And it would be roughly $1 million to get it off the ground, to buy the equipment, licensing, salaries. And then we would need to hire between 7 and 8 dispatchers in order to provide the service 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So it currently, it could be assumed that 7 to 8 people working 12-hour shifts is going to be higher than the number that we're currently paying. That also would require benefits and retirement.
Last questions. I have a couple, because I don't think anybody's here on Zoom from the sheriff's department. And in the past, sometimes we've had someone, but there was a conversation that was had yesterday with a county commissioner, and I have questions about as we approach the end of this contract next year, the one that was already negotiated, around things that I would like to see potentially added into it if we're going to, again, re-up this this contract, including the decrease in the percentage, but also some additional things. There are safety components for county employees and some other jurisdictions that I do not believe that the city is currently receiving and has ever received, including in lieu of recent events, and we're seeing with local elected officials and statewide officials being targeted, like dispatch having our information, whoever is in these seats, so that if someone were to call 911, they would know before it comes to the YPD that it is a local elected official that's calling for some type of emergency. Also, we talked about, we've had this conversation too about doing like tabletops around like emergency response and what we would do, and having those conversations with the county because they're providing us our dispatch and their shared jurisdictional control over the city. And some of those things I would hope to see, in a contract to require that we have those conversations across the board in collaboration so that there's better, communication and coverage in terms of any big incident or situation that could happen within the city. I know like the county itself, because their budget is totally different, they have other mechanisms in place in terms of emergency for their county commissioners. And so aside from this contract, I think that's something that I would strongly suggest that we have a conversation about. Like, what does that look like if there's something going on?
And there's potential in that just to be an addendum to this,
Mhm.
to include that information. So dispatch would have that and be prepared in case of anything happening. But yeah, that's a conversation that we can have prior to the expiration of this contract.
Yeah. So just thinking more broadly, as more sporadic things are happening that are impacting community and also leadership in a community, and for us to have conversation about like what happens in an event of a community-wide emergency, I think as a council and with you and with our chiefs, should be talking more about how that looks, how do we respond as a team. But in thinking about this, and then the conversation that we had yesterday, Councilmember King and I actually had yesterday, it's been top of mind around safety and our well-being in spaces. Further comments or questions from council? Councilmember King?
I was just gonna say, I know, even before this resolution came up, I did ask about how much it would cost for services to be back in-house, and I got that number. I'm just wondering, I guess a question that really doesn't matter, but how long have the services not been here in the city?
It's been, again, probably a couple decades. So we don't have any of the infrastructure necessary to run our own dispatch. I don't believe our police station is even able to hold dispatch services. But that would be a further conversation that we would have with the police department if that was a direction council wanted to go.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yeah, and just this is I guess a point of clarity. Dispatch is they're dispatching so what other services are they dispatching? Is it just police or is it the other emergency services as well?
So it's police, and then we have emergent for our HVA and then fire services.
You're saying emergent has the two other ones and then this shared dispatch. So this one is just for police and then the other ones are dispatched through, you said emergent?
Emergent.
Okay. Thank you.
That was it? Okay. For the Councilmember Fellows?
Just want to be more aggressive about negotiating our contracts in the future, and also, presents an opportunity to leverage the desire to have unarmed crisis response, because half of that venture is really the dispatch part. So, yeah, I think maybe next year we can negotiate that into the contract.
Comments or questions from council?
When about do these conversations tend to happen? Just just to think about when we should be thinking about these things. And I concur. I think it's great to think about some of these changes that can be added as addendums to the current contract. But yeah, about when is those conversations happening?
So this contract has 2 more years, but rather soon I'll probably reach out to the sheriff to start these conversations so we can have some time to negotiate it properly.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Councilmember McLean, you have 121.
Resolution 121 that the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti does hereby approve the letter of agreement to the IAFF 2022 to 2027 collective bargaining agreement and authorize the mayor, city manager, and city clerk to execute the agreement upon approval by the city attorney as to form. I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember McLean, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, City Manager.
This is has to do with our discussions in closed session.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Simmons.
Yeah, based on our conversation, I would like to motion to remove the increase in the remove the increase in the benefit that would be going in on a monthly at this time.
Moved.
Amended how? I'm sorry.
Remove the increase to
Remove it?
27.
I apologize. Thank you.
So it was like 245 to
225 to 270.
Thank you.
Is a motion on the floor?
Support.
It's been supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Discussion? Okay. Please call the roll on the amendment.
That's interesting.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Sure.
Mayor Brown,
No.
Councilmember Fellows,
Pass.
Councilmember Tucson,
Excuse me. No.
Councilmember Simmons,
yes.
Councilmember McLean,
No.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
No.
Motion fails.
Back to the original resolution. Discussion, question? Mayor Pro Tem.
I was willing to entertain that. I thought it was an interesting move. It would have required that this whole thing be renegotiated, right? And I appreciate why people voted against it. Also, I look at this and this is something that comes forward from the union. And as much as we have the well-being of our employees in mind, that is also the job of their union. And we don't know what the internal conversations look like and how that was presented to them, but we do know what the outcome of that vote was, and it is also the job of the union to look out for their members' well-being. And so with that, they have made an informed decision to move into this realm. And so with that, whether we agree or think it is a risk, I will support this as their decision.
Thank you. Further discussion or questions from council? Yeah, I'll just name that, yeah, I voted no on that amendment just because it would send it back to the bargaining table, and they've made a decision, so. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons, you have 122.
Resolution to protect the Ypsilanti community from the impacts of the 2025 federal budget bill, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti. Whereas Senate leaders are trying to pass the budget by July 4th, that was already approved by the House by a single vote. And whereas Governor Whitmer has stated concerns with how the budget will impact Medicaid and supplemental nutrition assistance programs for food benefits, which are used by 1.48 million Michiganders, including residents of Ypsilanti, which can be found in sections listed in the resolution. And whereas the bill will limit access to healthcare and student loans, which could harm our community and local higher education partners. And whereas the bill would place a moratorium on any level of government to regulate artificial intelligence models, systems, or automated decision systems if it would limit or restrict use, impose data handling, documentation, civil liability, taxation, or fee requirements, or create barriers to licensing, permitting, zoning, procurement, or reporting procedures. And whereas it will cut funding to reduce greenhouse gas, to measure and address air pollution, to reduce waste from petroleum and natural gas systems, and to support climate justice, which heavily impacts communities like Ypsilanti. And whereas the bill continues to enhance policies that inflicts harm on immigrant or those wrongfully identified as immigrant populations while prohibiting courts from enforcing contempt citations for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order. And whereas the bill shifts the tax burden away from the wealthy and onto low-income people. And whereas while cutting crucial programs that are necessary for our community, there are at least 13 enhancements or increases in spending of $145.1 billion for the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council urges Michigan Senators Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin to not only vote no on this budget, but to also amend the budget so that these harmful provisions are removed shall the budget pass. Be it further resolved, in addition to our senators, that this resolution be sent to our County Commissioner Annie Somerville, State Representative Jimmy Wilson Jr., State Senator Jeff Irwin, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Congressperson Debbie Dingell, so they may advocate on Ypsilanti's behalf. And I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Simmons, supported by Councilmember Fellows. Oh, thank you. Discussion? Questions?
Why not?
All right. Any discussion? That's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, was that a pen? Sometimes you put your pen up. Yeah. You didn't? Okay. All right, please call the roll. Oh, Councilmember Fellows. I'm sorry.
Just vocalizing support around you know, putting more eyes on our state reps, both in resolution but also in personal conversation. So I hope that we continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Please call it.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yep.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Simmons or King, y'all want to kick off our discussion on the questionnaire?
You want to?
You can.
All right, so at our last meeting, I shared, and it was a part of our packet, this report from the questionnaire that we had based just to help us plan our retreat. And so you can see all the information here, as well as recommendations for meeting locations and possible facilitators, as well as the priority topic areas. And so I think it would be great if we could have some options that we would ask staff to start movement on in terms of planning. It seemed overwhelming. People, were looking at August. And the retreat length between 4 to 8 hours. So there were kind of these options to choose. And, I think we could go in between those. It doesn't have to necessarily only be 8, but and what was I going to say also? The other thing, so just these notes, like there were some different staff that were named as possible, but I would say that both some folks specifically did not name staff and or name that there already seemed like enough, and that really this was an opportunity for council to do some strategic work in thinking as a body. So I'll just put that forward there. And yes, I think that that's mainly it.
The floor is open for discussion. Councilmember King?
And I'm just wondering, when you said like you want to just move on after our conversation tonight, are we gonna define what place we want to use? Is that something we're gonna come up with, or is that something we're gonna allow staff to do?
I mean, I think like, however, that's what I would like just to see, like, so we can give some guidance in terms of how to move it forward. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear folks' thoughts about any of these places, if people have questions about any of them, as well as the facilitator, so we can reach out to potential facilitators to figure out availability and things like that, that will be necessary. So I think it would be helpful if we provide some guidance for staff to kind of help move this forward.
And I would just say not necessarily about location, but for me, I feel like us is enough. I don't think we need additional staff members because I want to specifically team build with the rest of council.
Thank you.
And if we're making recommendations, I'm sorry, if we're making recommendations about locations, I'm never going to turn down the opportunity to be on Belle Isle. So, yeah.
So I should circle that one right now. That got a +1.
I was just gonna say, I don't want to go outside of the county.
Yeah.
Understood.
I'll take you to Belle Isle. Some other time, but
Excuse me.
So are there other places that people are leaning towards being? Even if they're not listed on here, is there other places?
Oh, okay.
I like Belle Isle.
Councilmember Fellows.
I'll just say I did bring forward the Belle Isle idea and Matai. They're both botanical gardens, so seems like a nice place to be. But these are all great suggestions.
Or this is, let me not ask it that way. What about like, our own space, like the Freight House?
Too comfortable.
What?
As far as for us as a city.
It's too comfortable. So this is meant to make us uncomfortable?
Not necessarily, because think about it. Belle Isle, the botanical garden is a comfortable place where you can, maybe release. So no, I think it's meant to be comfortable, but I would not suggest Freight House. While I love it,
Just bring it up. I said what it needs. I mean,
but we should write it down just in case. Just in case.
manager.
I also will note that this is going to be subject to OMA. So we have to try as hard as possible to have it in a public space. It can be in a private location, but only if public spaces are not available.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's just like being able to have a space where you can have some seats and things like that. And then also where we could set up probably virtual like recording or something too. Yeah.
So that's going to require somebody on staff to be
Present. Yeah.
But we will have, we do have the clerk, our city manager, and our city attorney.
Yeah.
So
And recording it is not required.
A recording is required for a year.
Thing. I guess I meant like the live streaming, not recording.
yeah,
No,
like
the
a-
live streaming is not required, but I would suggest.
yes.
Yeah.
Although like
Yeah.
the audio.
Right, is
Right.
required to record. Yep. So that's why I was bringing up the Freight House somewhere local, because they're members of our building. Thinking about other spaces, maybe there's rental costs and all these other things. I mean, we have spaces that belong to us. So we give us a free waiver from Botanical Gardens. Councilmember King and then Fellows, I think I saw.
The only thing I was gonna say, since we, I do want to kind of stick with location so we can kind of get that squared away. I would vote for Belle Isle or the Mama Q Community House. Would be the two that I would be leaning towards.
Thank you. Councilmember Fellows?
I didn't list it here, but Montebello has a really nice what is it called? It's not a pavilion.
But it's
Yeah, they have an indoor, they have an
Yeah.
indoor, outdoor.
It's fancy, has lots of seating, has bathrooms. It's nice. It's in Pittsfield Township. I think it was built in 2023. Really affordable rates for renting it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
That is a good
That's
one.
a good one. That's a good
The
one.
one, although I think the only thing, but we could look into whatever availability because they run a camp through there. I only know that because my daughter.
They're busy because it's nice.
But it might be done by then. So, or whatever.
Further discussion from council? Mayor Pro Tem?
I guess before making any decisions, I definitely want to see the cost of at least for that amount of time. I know that I have no idea for some of these places. I've been to the Botanical Gardens, the Literary Club, the News Center, the Cobblestone Farms. I don't know about the other ones, but especially the ones in Detroit. But those all come at a cost. I know Cobblestone Farms has it's a nice facility. We were recently at a meeting there. There may be. I wonder if the Watershed Council would use their headquarters.
The where?
Watershed.
The Watershed Council. They've got a great building. They just redid it. That.
I don't know what that is.
It's downtown Ann Arbor. It's HRWC's headquarters.
There's also like county facilities as well that we have access to utilize. The LRC and yeah.
I
don't like the LRC?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, I would say like some of these, I like some of these different ideas. I would say that like I would want to, like when I'm thinking about space is something that might like help drive some creativity and not stunt us. So some of these places like the LRC, I'm like, Like that doesn't feel retreat space, like someplace I want to be for more than like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And also something that I think will help us to, one of the nice things about a place, like I would co-sign any of these options that have like options for indoor and outdoor space. Like Avalon Village, I know has some things, like just to give us some changes as we move through our agenda in it, to give our brains some expansiveness and maybe access to sunlight because y'all, I got vitamin D deficiency, and so any opportunity I think is good. And also just recognizing this is like, for us, like I know this is something that we're taking on as really above and beyond what's required and like what's expected and time. And so I like the idea of not making like meetings drudgery. And so if there's a way to kind of add to that for us, I think it will help it feel better because we already know it's extra for us. So so any of the things, I think Montebello, that could be interesting. I don't know what the watershed count, but I think wherever it is, like if there's a thing where there could be some indoor, outdoor options, I think that would be nice.
I think also like, yeah, like Mayor Pro Tem said, pricing is important to look at in all these
Mhm.
spaces as a comparison, to see, and just, going back to the OMA stuff, just making sure that we are cognizant of that in whatever decisions are being made.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're not going to necessarily decide, but I feel like if we can, yeah, as we go through this and also for facilitator, which will also come with costs, if we can have some things, then that will be, I think, the next stage, which is to get availability and pricing, and then we can actually decide. But I know just working with Summer, that it would be good to kind of get this started if we want to do something in August.
I guess two other places I could think of. There's a place on West Liberty that has exactly that. It's a space that has a garden out back. I've done retreats there for the Ecology Center board and a couple other functions. And also the Friends have a retreat center outside of Chelsea as well, which is on a lake.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this spot actually. Uh-huh.
First spot, I'm looking for the name of it. It was it's owned by a person that used to be at U of M for the School of Natural Resources back when it was called the School of Natural Resources. I'm looking for the name, but
Maybe we can further discussion on this. I guess my question would be for our council leads on this, maybe like what, in terms of facilitator ideas and the things that are on here, how would you like to
Narrow it down.
narrow it down? Yeah, find out what we.
Yeah.
Is there anybody or a few people here that anybody, like all of us here on council are like, yes, I've heard of this person and I'm interested in that person, or is there anybody on the list that you all may say, no, we definitely don't want that person?
And the same thing for location. I think if we just say like, oh, like, LRC is not on here, but it came up today, I would say no to LRC. So I think like if there's things where we know like that's a hard no, or this is a yes or maybe, then that gives enough for like where to go. So then we can try to narrow it down.
So I have a question. I think, how important is the date to you? Do you think you all can agree on a date? Because I think if you pick a date, we could then look at facilitators and locations and see what's available. And then we could give you what's available.
Or see.
Yeah, without a date, we can't do anything.
So we did say August. Did we pick a date, like a day, Monday through Friday, or?
Day of the week works best for everybody.
Zero.
it's all gonna be time off.
Unless it's on the weekend, but that's a different kind of time off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
rather take the time off work than.
Yeah.
Our
I
meeting.
mean, I would say
guess,
Fridays in general, but I don't know how, like Fridays tend to be a lighter day for me and a day that I do like more increased like council business. But,
I could go for a Friday in August.
although,
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them.
yes.
The first,
not
the
available.
18th, the 22nd, and the 29th, if a Friday works for everyone.
I would, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if we're looking at that, I would say,
Oh, I
let's-
can't do the first, I'm sorry.
no, I
Can't
can't.
do the 8th.
I would be able to do the 22nd. It's like the later ones in August that would work best. So like the 22nd or the 29th.
The 29th starts the holiday weekend.
Mhm.
It's my only.
So what?
And then can I ask again? I know I just asked this question to you. Which one of the council meetings did we get rid of?
We only have the 12th in August.
Oh, dang. And we trying to add something?
And add the meeting back. So I was saying that to
We
say,
could.
try to give ourselves a summer recess. I mean,
Maybe they better.
no,
Second.
no, I don't want the 26th back. I'm saying.
Reasonable for me.
Hmm?
22nd seemed reasonable.
It did accept the recess point.
My point is that we
yeah.
gave ourselves a recess, and that means we're adding a meeting after the recess. The time that we're giving that's what I was getting at. We'll be adding a meeting back into our.
So then would we want to push this until September? That wasn't an option in the questionnaire because obviously it was like whatever. But if folks feel, then we can, push it to September, so that we can fully appreciate the time. So if that's the case, we can look at a date in September, which gives us a little more time anyway to do the outreach.
City manager.
Is the plan to have this during the day or is it a night thing?
Well, we were talking about between 4 to 8 hours, and I know that we have done and could do, but I would like to do it during the daytime, because I'm not a vampire.
6 a.m.
We gonna do it at 6 a.m.?
Oh, I think 8 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Great. Councilmember King.
I was just gonna say the MML conference is in September from the 17th through the 19th. I don't know if people are planning on going, and I know sometimes if so, it potentially could be fit in during that time.
We'll take that out of the hours away from here.
What about the September 12th or September 26th?
I would be unavailable on the 26th. I have the EMU Presidential Search Committee all day that day.
Mhm.
I could do the 12th.
Okay, I can do the 12th.
It's a Friday, September 12th.
What time are y'all trying to do this?
We haven't decided, but
12.
Councilmember Simmons has said, please during the day, because she is not a vampire.
Thank you.
You know?
I want that on the record.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I mean, it'd be nice
12
to
to
have a day.
4,
I have been getting
1 to 5.
4.
Well,
If
See, man.
it depends on it, do you want an 8-hour or a 4-hour? 8-hour would be 9 to 5.
I know we said, I think, like I said, like it was like 4 to 8. There was strong agreement with both of those. The agreement fell off with multi-day and
Yeah, no.
so I think that they were strong for both of them. I know we're talking about, but I feel like something like that, the time, maybe we don't have to determine quite yet because it would be good to know, what the availability for different spaces are. And then also what I would suggest too with that is, as we're connecting with facilitators with saying like, here's some idea, they might be able to suggest, like, we think that in order to cover this is what we would propose. Like I know when people come to, I'm usually like, I try to put forward a proposal and that might give us something to work with in terms of, actually, we don't feel like we need 8 hours. We think 6 hours is enough or.
Great. I'm blocking off time on September 12th.
Great. So that's one of the questions. And then the other thing I think is just like what people or places do people feel strongly for or against? I know maybe Pro Tem, you suggested a couple of places that we didn't have on here. So maybe if you could share those with our clerk that you have that like to look at. It sounded like Belle Isle Conservancy, Montebello Park, that those all had high things, and then new ones that came forward that might match some options were the Friends, the space in Chelsea, maybe whatever this place is on West Liberty.
It sounded to me that Huron River Watershed and Montebello Park rose to the top, and Belle Isle, but then Pro Tem said you didn't want to leave the county. So so yeah.
Although most everyone else said they would, and Pro Tem didn't participate, so.
I'm cool. That's fine. That's yeah. I acknowledged I did not get the questionnaire back to you, and I apologize for that. But
No,
I like the idea of Montebello Park. That's
That would be City Clerk?
Avalon Village was also mentioned. I noted that. Was it just in passing, or do you want me to look at that? I thought somebody said Avalon.
yeah, I put that. I mean, I like that spot because it, like I said, it does provide some variety. But I mean,
Okay, so I've got all the places that you have mentioned. If there is any other place that you are interested in, please email them to me. I understand that we are looking at September 12th. We are looking at 4 to 8 hours, and in particular, a space that might have some outdoor and indoor space. And then I will contact the facilitators on your list as well.
thank you.
is there.
What?
Art thing.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yeah.
That wouldn't get. Oh, I guess they're supposed to have that.
Also, it's 10:27 and it's not like a motion, so we can.
if possible, could we also add to the facilitators list Dr. Milner? Because I liked how he facilitated yeah. Appreciate it.
It's 10:27. I entertain a motion to extend the meeting.
Move to extend till 11 o'clock.
Support.
All in favor of extending to 11 o'clock?
Aye.
You're still gonna say. All right,
Do it.
Councilmember Simmons.
I think the one thing, again, I'll just say, I mean, I think we should look at all. I'm not against looking into Dr. Milner, but I would just say that, again, like, see, after kind of being in those facilitated spaces and also seeing how he facilitated the county commissioner retreat, that, yeah, I think that maybe a different facilitator could help us achieve different strategic goals than what we've already done.
I have a suggestion for a facilitator. Her name is Chanel Poe. She's from the area, not Ypsilanti, but Southeast Michigan. She currently resides in a different state, but is here a lot facilitating with municipalities. She's a former elected school board member, and so I can send you her information. This is all that she does is work with municipalities and elected officials.
I also support that as well.
I will just in terms of the people I put, one of the people, Tanya Bailey, is somebody that I was in a session that she led at an MML conference breakout group. And it was very like energizing, engaging, fun. There were like, she had different activities that you did, and then she like explained it and you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. So I'll put that forward, that was just like a person that I experienced, and I was like, I really liked it. And obviously as a person who facilitates a lot, I'm always like, oh, that's a facilitator. Like, so that was where I found her.
Further discussion?
Anna Lemler.
Trying to find.
Thank you both for putting this work together and the questionnaire.
I could add one thing, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be an issue, but we would not be able to use the Freight House as a backup on the 12th. It doesn't,
We would not.
we will not.
Well, there's that. So I know some of you are excited about that. Okay, so we kind of have a direction to move there. All right, so we'll wait to get some feedback from clerk and I'll send you that information. And thank you both for your work on this. Mayor Pro Tem, you have our next resolution.
Yikes. Let me get out of that. Resolution number 2025-123, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the following resident be reappointed to the City of Ypsilanti boards and commissions as indicated below. Name Phil Hollifield for the Planning Commission with an expiration date of 5/1/2028. And I so move.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember McLean. Discussion.
Phil got overlooked. Bunch of people, he had applied and he got overlooked, and other people got appointed before that. Amanda Smith, which I fully supported, but Phil's been around for a while. He adds greatly to the conversation. He's a contractor, and so he brings that knowledge and perspective to the planning commission. So,
Any further comments or discussion? Councilmember Fellows?
I want to extend my appreciation to longtime public servants like Mr. Hollyfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further comments or discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson. Motion carries unanimously.
You. Councilmember King, you have our last resolution.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the rehabilitation of Harriet Street is programmed for construction year 2025 and the current 3-year tip, and whereas it is necessary to enter into a contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the implementation of this project. Now therefore be resolved that the City of Ypsilanti City Council approves the Michigan Department of Transportation contract number 25-5262, and be it further resolved that the mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign this contract subject to approval by the city attorney, and any change orders may be approved with the city manager to facilitate completion of this work. I so move.
Moved by Councilmember King, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, I'm just here if you have questions.
Questions, Ramane? Then a wait. Was last time.
800-pound gorilla, right?
I don't think this one is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's the bridge. This is like terrier.
All right. There are no questions or comments. Councilmember Fellows.
I'll just add, that I think probably most of us received the email about issue on Cross Street where someone, I think it was the EMU professor, was requesting protected bike lanes. So just something I will think about for future road projects, and yeah, but I understand this one's already in the works.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows.
Yes.
Member Tucson.
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Police Advisory Commission.
All right, so our next meeting is June 26th at 7 p.m. right here in council chambers. Recently, YPAC members attended Peacenik, where they went around and handed out cards to all in attendance. So I'm hoping that drove some awareness to YPAC's existence and what they do in the community. I would like to extend my condolences to the friends, family, and associates of Jeffrey Seafor, who has recently unfortunately passed. With saying that there's a Ward 3 seat in YPAC that is open. So if anybody would like to participate in the process of what YPAC does, please apply. We'll be waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you. HRC.
No update. We don't have a meeting this month. We will resume next month with our meeting.
Parks and Arts.
At last evening, I'll have a report at the next meeting.
Sustainability.
We did have a meeting. I know I should have been prepared. I don't know. I don't have notes on this right now. Anything that you remember from the meeting, Bonnie? To report back to folks. It was a pretty short meeting. So yeah, I don't have anything to report. Thanks.
HDC.
A report tonight.
What's next? Planning.
Planning Commission meets tomorrow, it's right here, same time. Last time, well, we had the PUD come up from the last time, so you all know about that. There was further discussions about dark sky compliance ordinance, and there's some ongoing work with Josh and the capital improvement plan. Turns out, they've been supposed to be approving that all along. So that is going before them. Bonnie has taken that up with them, and then there's that was discussion last time and discussion tomorrow as well. So, and then there's a site plan amendment for tomorrow as well too.
Thank you. ZBA.
Didn't meet.
SEMCOG.
No update this time.
Watts.
We have our annual meeting tomorrow morning.
County, I have no update. DDA meets tomorrow morning here in council chambers, 8 a.m. if you'd like to attend. Rutherford Pool.
Met last week. As I mentioned in the past, they had some issues with getting set up this year, delay, and so they're reassessing what that looks like and how much of the work they can do themselves. It turns out that some of the staff actually did some of the work that the contractor was supposed to do. So they got away cheaper than they had before, but they're assessing whether that's something they want to continually do. We'll see what happens. But they're open. Lessons are happening. There's money for that. There's money for suits. And they're just doing the general great job they usually do.
Thank you.
What's
That's
that?
proposed business.
Fact.
The pool's jumping. it really is. Councilmember King.
Okay, I have a few things. Just number one, have we ever sold t-shirts? Is that something we can do? I know at the last event I went to, when wearing my shirt, a lot of people always ask, where could they get one? Is that something we can do?
We've never done it in the past. I don't know that we can sell t-shirts. I would say we can have the city attorney review that, but we've never done it in the past. I'm not entirely sure how we would go about doing that.
Okay, so go ahead.
I don't think there's any laws against selling swag. I think the bigger problem for us would be possibly the outlay of money, without knowing if we would recoup it. Right. That we might be able to take orders, something along those lines. But we could
Put out a thing
look.
to see if there's like interest maybe in this and then go from there.
There's even a possibility. It's something I heard about. I'd have to get more information. A local organization that I'm part of wants to sell shirts too, but has the same problem. So there is some website now where you can upload your logo and people can just order it right from the website, and you get some profit from that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like on demand.
Just don't know about putting our logo out.
I would defer to the city attorney, but if it's for profit, do we run into an issue with Bolt?
With what you said?
Bolt. So our fees can only cover our costs. So it would be at cost, whatever we would sell them for.
You would make any money.
Bolt's a tax case, but I mean, I see the point you're making. What I've seen done, not necessarily with municipalities, is they've licensed the logo to someone else and just let them deal with all the overhead costs of printing, delivery, all those things. I'm just a little worried about a municipality engaging in a for-profit activity.
So the making money part is problematic.
Making money part is potentially the
Well,
problem.
we need
But
revenue
essentially-
streams.
I'm only shooting on hip and mine's
Yeah.
not much.
So that might be worth considering, but the other thing is whether we, if there's examples of municipalities that might have something like this, like to have a fund, to fund something specific, like the money that comes back from the shirts could be used for X, as a revenue generation.
Generally speaking, it might be like a 501c arm of the city, like the Rutherford Pool can sell city shirts and make money. The Historical Museum could sell city shirts and make money.
We still wouldn't make the money,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
the original
would just-
point of Councilman King.
So if we could, it could build the sense of connection in the city.
They don't want to put a dollar amount on that, Desiree. We can't make money
Yeah.
off that. They say.
Yeah. Maybe we give them out as swag at a field day event.
So,
Anywho,
Councilwoman
so
King-
if we can look into that and really see what the actual answer is, that would be great. And also, while at an event this past week, I did see some of the commissioners with city shirts on. And so I'm wondering, do all commissioners get shirts or how are they divvied out?
I think I might have mentioned this the last time. Shirts are not given out to commissioners, but the YPAC commissioners specifically requested them,
Yeah.
and they have been asked to pay for them.
Yeah, they requested them for visibility at Peacenik, and yeah, they got to pay for 'em.
Yeah.
They have to pay for it?
Make that make
Yeah.
sense to me. How
Yeah.
to pay for 'em if we can't make money?
That costs, I think.
The cost.
Oh, just cost of the shirt.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. I'm trying to make it clear.
And then I think, not to exacerbate this conversation, but for the YPAC, some of them had their names on the back of them, and that was done third party.
They did that themselves.
Yeah, with their
Okay.
cricket machines or whatever. I think so. That was the conversation.
Yes, somebody
Commitment.
cricket. One of them has a cricket.
Oh, somebody has that makes sense. All right. That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, Councilmember King, you're
Okay, I just have a couple more. So the speed bumps over here in Ainsworth Circle on Ferris, they keep coming up. So another question that came up with a resident is, if they keep coming up, can we get them removed until we have the proper equipment to keep them down? Okay, okay.
How does that work?
We would remove them. We have none to replace them, but we would just remove it.
I just mean this conversation here, because didn't we vote to put them in there?
Not Ains.
So somebody just asked for them and they went out. Oh, interesting.
Because they want them on Monroe.
Wouldn't have it now.
Right. Okay. Listen, okay. Cool. So it's just like, oh, remove them and they just get removed.
I mean, and I feel like part of the reason for them to remove, they're more of a hazard being all split up on the road like they are. And that is the communication that has come to me with my residents, and that is an area that I frequently drive past as well. So it is problematic.
When they're broken, we can remove them,
Mhm.
especially if we have the intent to put them back. But as I recall, Ferris did not go through the same standard process that we use currently because it was prior to that process.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just a few more. So rocks, I noticed and I got a phone call about more rocks being put in Riverside Park. Is there a reason why?
To keep people from parking in the park, yes.
In the park in general or on the grass?
Both. The grass is part of the park. It's not intended for parking.
Okay.
We're talking boulder. Yes,
I'm boulders, yes.
to protect the grass in the park.
And the
'cause I know
wonderful
the grass is a part of the park.
poles and all of that. Yep.
And then are those boulders going to be removed in the winter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Got a bobcat. So
Because when the
slider's
snow
okay.
gets on them and people don't see them, and then people are hurt. Or cars are
Boulders are
Or people-
small.
people
But
sled.
winter, if there's snow on the ground, then the gates are closed and we're not concerned about cars. We're concerned about the sledders.
Right, people. So yeah, people can get hurt. Is what I said. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I said originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move them out of the way in the winter. the sledding range.
The last few things is a reminder that Juneteenth is this weekend. I'm super excited to participate in the farmers market. It's every Saturday, and I know I've been going quite frequently and finding all kind of good things. So that is all for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Tucson?
Yes, I only have one thing. I've recently been getting a little bit of communications from residents in Ainsworth about Ferris Street, like like the little curve when you come off of Hamilton. Um, they've been concerns about people parking like on the street and how dangerous that is. So I was wondering, like, what can we do? Like, is there a possibility to like right here to stop parking on that?
On Ferris?
Yeah, like street parking, because
Before.
it makes it so narrow that people are almost hitting other cars or hitting.
I mean, we could put no parking signs.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah, that came up before, as
Gotcha.
well as cutting back the
The bushes on
bushes.
the corner. Yeah.
I think,
The bushes got cut back.
right, the ones on Hamilton, right? The ones on Hamilton going in on the Ferris.
That were
Yeah.
problematic, from my understanding, were the ones that were at Town Center
Yep.
Yeah.
place, and those are just gone now.
Yep.
Okay.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of someone, that's probably somebody's house that has a bush right there and that on the curve.
Yeah, by the triangle. Yeah, that you get it right at. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
oh,
that's probably,
Yeah.
that's
Somebody's
residential
house,
then.
but yeah, the street park.
'Cause that also is, yeah.
yeah, there's a stop sign there that regularly gets engulfed by the
Mhm.
tree right
Yes.
before it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was it.
That's okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Far up where we put the no parking, that's what I'm wondering.
So there is a balance in that area. Just with traffic calming, generally you want on-street parking so that people drive more slowly. So that's the balance that the neighborhood has to sort of choose for itself. I would recommend that we, if we do make a decision for no parking for a period of time, that we stick with it for a few years and see how it works over time. Because we've seen on some streets where people request a measure, then not like it, and then.
Right.
So question,
Stop.
this still has to go through the petition process that everything else does in terms of parking and.
If
Is-
there's a distinct visibility concern, no. Like if it's literally like a visibility issue. And
The
we can
parking?
Conventionally show that it is an issue, like if the current vehicle parking encroaches upon the turning radius for vehicles as they're coming off of Hamilton, then we can, eliminate a parking space or two and just move up the no parking zone, extend that no parking zone pretty easily. But the vast majority of traffic decisions are not made by petition.
And then I think like Councilmember Tucson said, it's not just Hamilton, it's is it Ainsworth
When
that
you-
curves around?
At the curb is the
Yeah.
worst part, actually.
Curve,
It's
yeah,
the
right.
curve that cars are parked there, and when you're turning onto the street and someone else is coming, you're about to hit somebody head on, especially at night. Cause yeah, it's bad. It really is bad.
So we're taking out the speed bumps and getting rid of the parked cars so people can go faster through.
No, no,
Well, the speed bumps are further down. They're
Yeah.
not there.
Speed bumps
What-
that are failing are definitely.
Are further down, way further.
Mhm. There's still some in that area, yeah.
Yeah.
But the ones that keep getting bumped over are further down.
Yeah.
So I appreciate traffic calming, but it is dangerous coming into Ainsworth. It is. Many people, you see them having to like quickly pivot when they're coming in. I've
Yeah.
walked that area. I mean, it's not good.
Now, the previous discussions that we've had were coming off of Hamilton. They weren't around that island. So we can take a look at that island specifically. That the Ainsworth, Middle, Ferris confluence.
Yeah, but I think
Not the
for me,
island.
It's before
Yeah.
the island.
Right.
Well, because the island is so big, hasn't
It's the curve that goes into the island, like that. There, people park on that curve. I don't know what side of the road that would be because I don't know directions that well.
North side.
But north side? Know what you said?
Yeah.
If
Oh,
they're
okay.
on Ferris, then they're gonna be on the north side. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then
Oh, I drive down that street all the
Yeah.
time.
We can also
I get home.
point at a map.
You go through the neighborhood?
What's that?
11 o'clock at night.
You go through the
Thank
neighborhood?
Yeah.
Anywho, all right, we're running down on time.
Got 10
Thank you.
minutes.
Okay, Councilmember Simmons. Sorry, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, so I have a few. These are some holdovers from last meeting. One, something that I know is like a larger conversation, but just to name like another, I know I talk about this a bit, like in terms of thinking about punitive enforcement versus sharing resources and support. I heard from a resident that was having an issue around being cited for an unplated car that was on their property, so it wasn't in the street. And just kind of saying like this was an issue, and the time frame also was hard one for them to reach. But just naming that, I feel like, again, we're a small town or a large town. We can have different approaches. It could be the same amount of work, but it might actually make people feel better about their interactions with the city. And this isn't the first time that kind of thing has come forward. So
Council will need to change the code. Right now, you can't have an inoperable vehicle unregistered on your property. It would have to be either covered or in a garage. So that would council would need to make an ordinance amendment.
I thought that was a state statute, that you can't have an unregistered car.
That's on the road, I believe.
Mhm.
So if it's on a driveway, we still,
Really?
yeah. I mean, I could double check. If it is a state statute, then no, council can't change that.
That would be helpful to know. This has come up, and I mean, there's been a couple of these kinds of things that come forward, and then what people say to me is that they feel like it's classist. And so, and also obviously, as we know, like, not evenly enforced all the time, although that might be different now than it was in the past. So that would be helpful to know if that's something we could address. Another thing, just for folks to be aware of, I did meet with a resident that is looking for council to perhaps do some movement around regulating an over-the-counter, oh, now I wish I should, an over-the-counter substance called 7H versus a ban. And this is something that,
I didn't repeat that.
yes, so hold on. Well, 7H is like, and they gave me an example. Let me see here. I can give you. Just let me pull this up so I can tell you more specifically. Oh, 70H, I think, not 7H. And so there were a couple of questions around what the city could do or not do. This is just so folks are aware. So this is something that just like, so for instance, like a lot of different drugs have over-the-counter chemical versions. So for instance, like cannabis has Delta 8. There's Kratom, but this is different than Kratom. So, but in the same space, because we also talked about that. But the issue is that there have been some movements around banning it, and this resident had some concerns about that, but did think that there are some things that we could maybe do that maybe could be regulatory. So that we were trying to get a sense of what we could do within city limits, whether zoning might come into play in terms of distributors. And this person has talked to some of the different people, and that they would be open to things like that. But so there were things around, for instance, like ads and things like that. So one of the things I had suggested might be that we can have a presentation about it, just to like inform us more about it, what that would look like. But it would be helpful to know, city attorney, what kinds of things we could do around substances within city limits. Like what are, what is possible within our jurisdiction.
Question is what you're saying, is the state or federal preemptive activity?
Well, right. I think at this point it has, I mean, there's some conversations of things at the state level, I know. But what is possible for us to do around this without something at those levels, but also, yes, if it does happen, what we would be able to do. The other, oh, excuse me. I don't like to just cough. The other question, this is a question I have. This is just a reminder, because I remember when we kind of started, we had this whole conversation about performance reviews for the clerk and the city manager. And I'm wondering about our timeline and process for that. Because I think that it felt like it was kind of in the summertime going into the fall that we did it. And I remember at that time, we were told it was actually late when we came to it. So I just wanted to connect about that. Is this the time that we should be doing that work?
If you know what what the original schedule was, because we did it so late every other time.
Used to be in November.
So we didn't, because this is something we're supposed to do each year.
Yeah.
So we would have done it this past November, but we didn't. So yeah. So anyway, so I guess we should, I guess as a body, we should work on this, because I remember the problem was partially that the body has to do it and put forward the process and things around that. So it's too late right now. I'm not going to go deep on it, but I did want to raise it to our membranes. Okay. So I'll come back to that. People have timing. So now we know it's supposed to be in November. So that gives us some time to work toward what we'll need to do, because it's supposed to be completed by November. Is that correct?
There's no written policy. That's just historically what I've noticed them happening.
But wasn't that late when that happened in November?
No, November was the typical time, at least what I've seen in the.
So it was in the summer that we did it, and it was late because we didn't do it. It hadn't happened.
Well, I mean, there is no late or on time. It just has to happen yearly. There's not necessarily a policy that council has for evaluations.
Is that something that would be helpful?
It would probably help council to have a policy and when evaluations should occur. The past couple of years, I do evaluations right before the beginning of the fiscal year.
Yeah, I do remember that was part of it. And then there was a decoupling of like when raises were happening and things like that. So I don't want us to forget. The other thing was just that, so Job Corps shut down. And I was trying to get a sense of like how it impacts, what kind of impacts we see in our community, and what orgs that do support folks that would be impacted by that, like foster youth, and others might be able to help us find out that information. I can say,
Yeah, I own energy. It's 10:57, so we'll need to extend if other folks want to give their business.
Move to extend to 11:15.
Move. All in favor of extending to 11:15?
Aye.
Opposed?
all right, I'm gonna skip this other one. We already talked about that. I wanted to check in about if we were able to get the loan that we were looking for the fire truck, so we could take advantage of the cost savings.
So I don't have a status on that. I have to speak with Reagan, but we signed the contract to purchase it. I don't know where we are with the loan, but I will follow up.
Thanks, because I think we were kind of in a certain time limit for when we could pay that to get the cost savings. It was like within 30 days, I think, or something.
So the interesting thing there is the interest that we pay on getting the loan rather than just the financing through the thing is pretty much the savings that we would see by paying it all up front. So it'd be a neutral thing, because we'd have to pay interest on the loan we get from the bank. That's going to be about the same amount as what we would get removed if we were to pay it all.
I thought we were planning on getting a loan from the bank regardless.
Well, no, if we finance through the company that was there, or we get a loan for a bank. If we get the loan for a bank, we're gonna have to pay interest on that loan, and that's gonna be around the same amount as we would save if we were to pay everything off at once. So there's not,
Or was like a certain amount of it, yeah.
yeah, there's not really any savings, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would like to see that, just
Okay.
to be clear, because I feel like when we talked about it, that was put forward as an option, and that there might be more favorable terms. So that was just something I didn't want to lose. And then the last thing, tree time in the park, 6/29, June 29th, 10 to noon. Hopefully I'll have a flyer out soon. And then the last question, and this again could be a further conversation, but I've been having a lot of people talking to me about potholes and deteriorating roads. And so just have questions around how those are prioritized or determined to be fixed. And if there are signs that could be put up for areas that are particularly poor. A couple that I'll just name is like Cross Street by Prospect Park is particularly poor, but maybe, and then Adams Street between Cross and Pearl. There's no part of the street you can be on going from Cross to Pearl that you're not gonna, and I busted my bike tire a couple of times. So anyhow, so I want to talk about that more. I know it's late, but that is a question that's coming up more and more. Thank you.
Councilmember Fellows.
Just a reminder that our next commission work session is July 1st, pretty soon. So get any topics you would like in before that session. Because I think the last time we didn't really have topics set up for our agenda. So hopefully we can have a little bit more organized discussion. The Agenda Organization Committee, I actually don't know what this committee is called, but it's Tracy, Andrew, Nicole, me, Steve, you weren't there. But we met this past week, and 2 policy updates will be coming to a future agenda. One is super minor, it's just like affirming that we go to a 6 p.m. time when there's a closed session or a budget meeting. And the other one was to revisit the second public comment at the end of the night. So those will be coming soon. I just wanted to share that I plan to look through all the applications of the last year for commissions to try to start following up with people via email and phone to see if they're still interested in commission work, with particular attention to the Ethics Commission. So I'm just going to slowly try to follow up with people and see if there's still interest, and attempt to nominate people to the Ethics Commission since that board is still empty. I met with Randy in the last week too, City Attorney Barker, and we discussed upcoming legislation for around tenant rights that will come around in July. And we also talked about forming a subcommittee to talk about all these different tenant issues and potential ordinances or legislation. And so would like to invite other council members from each ward if interested. I did send you, Councilmember King, an email about this. So, because I thought you might be interested because we were talking about tenant right of first refusal as well. But yeah, we would like to kind of combine our efforts so that, we're not duplicating work. And I will skip that one for now. And I just want to make just a broad condemnation of this kind of international brewing of war in Iran. Israel has been carrying out a genocide on the Palestinian people in Gaza, and now would like to drag the U.S. into further involved conflict with Iran. I think this is both a moral question and an existential one at this point. And we need to do everything we can to stop this from progressing. And that's my comments for now. Thank you.
Councilmember McLean?
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick items. One, just, I think Councilmember Tucson mentioned Peacenik a little bit earlier. Be able to attend that event and hope that will continue. Get a lot more community engagement with our officers. Secondly, I want to just commend Director Wessler on the DNR grant that is known about now, but is a great, I think, fit with some of the things that I'm hoping to accomplish as well, and that we talked about it during the budget with regard to trees. So I'll leave it at that. The hour's late.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a couple things. Yeah, was that Peacenik? I have some questions about that presentation. I'll talk to the organizers, but it was a nice event. Again, farmers market every Saturday. Show up. Great stuff going on. College Heights trash pickup was interrupted. Has that been rescheduled and redone, or? I got mixed reports. I figured I'd ask you here.
So Monday, the trash route was cut short by a worker injury. They returned today, so doing both today's normal pickup and yesterday's pickup. So I think they had at least 2 trucks out on the route. It sounds like they did not finish today, which is not really surprising. Tuesday's one of the heaviest days.
Yeah.
But I anticipate we'll be back up by tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Knock on wood.
And then the other one, other item is extension of Ferris. I'll just say it. Gail's business is on Huron, but there are a number of cars that are parked between Huron and Washington that are there long term. And so the question came up of, can that be regulated in terms of timeframes for parking on the street? I've been noticing that some cars have been sitting there for extended periods of times, and I think some of it is residents from nearby.
36 hours. That's how long you can remain on a public street without moving. So that is part of the parking enforcement officer's regular patrol, and there's a few cars there, like the Fiero, that do move.
Yep.
Just move when prompted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll be brief. Just want to encourage residents, I know it's late, hopefully somebody will watch this recording, to sign up for our city information letter, to read that. It has lots of really good information in it. I really appreciated this month's, well, the recaps, the one for June that recaps a lot of the May events that occurred. Yesterday, Councilmember King, Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon, and myself, and along with Commissioner Sanders, had an opportunity to be with, well, staff too. Oh, a lot of everybody. But staff was 60 young people from Mr. Fox's class. They were just wonderful. They loved sitting up here. It was pretty funny. Everybody wanted to bang the gavel. They asked really very, very good questions. It was a good time, and I just love the youngsters, man. And then also Tracy left this up here for me, but this is super cute. It came from Wise when I went to go read to them a few weeks ago, and they made this like really cute big card, and it has a whole message on the back, and it's really, really nice. So I just wanted to show this off because they took time to make it. And so I wanted this to be on record that it was here, and it's very nice, and I'm very grateful to all the students. Looking forward to Juneteenth this weekend. So hopefully folks will, come out. I know it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be so hot.
Fun.
And then and then I just need to say this again since we're talking about parking and roads and cars being there. The bike lane things, man. People are driving through those, parking in them, making turn lanes out of them. And I still don't understand why the width was chosen that it is. on Huron and Hamilton because it's so dangerous. I watch accidents about to happen specifically at that Harriet and Hamilton turn every single day, especially at the end of the day, people are going home from work and folks are like, oh, I'm not about to wait. I'm gonna just shoot down this little side lane here. It's not good. It's quite scary actually. So again, I just think that there's a lot of things around our roads, around traffic calming, around parking, around speeding, around like I don't know. There's just a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues. So just wanted to name that as another safety concern.
I wonder if there could be like a center, like something at the beginning of when you go in.
Yeah, that makes it go in, like at least
like
goes in.
as a tapered thing.
Yeah, can we move from over a taper or something in the beginning? But anyway, I don't know. I'll end there. But city manager, sorry, I'll talk to you about it, Bonnie. City manager.
I just have a couple things. I did reach out to LEAP about doing the public safety and health assessment. I'm just waiting to hear back from them. If you have not done so, please schedule a meeting with Bonnie and I to discuss waste management. I attended the first HRWC Technical Advisory Committee, which is made up of myself, one other city administrator, and then a bunch of scientists. So it's a very interesting conversation. They all have really good big ideas, and I realized my place there is to temper expectations. But all in all, it was a great meeting, and that's all I have.
City clerk, you have anything?
Just very quickly, I just wanted to mention that we have launched the Next Request, which is the new FOIA software. Should make it easier for residents to get the information that they're looking for. Eventually, we're going to have, like a whole library of information of things that are frequently asked for that people will just be able to go and find there. So we've been training some department heads, but mostly, the members of the departments that do the FOIA work that have to compile the information so that they know how to use the software as well. Seems to be going pretty well so far.
Thank you. All right. Well, I don't know what time it is. It's getting close. So the meeting's adjourned.
Oh my.
I have Tracy, I'm going to sign all these things for you. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
So Andrew, I'm curious about this technical.
Mhm.